What up, world? Conquest here on IG Live for your Deprogrammed podcast. My co-host I'm about to bring in a few.
I don't think so.
Between you and I, I've tried this at least 4 times. I'm trying to get the light right in this room. Meanwhile, Ari's gonna look amazing from her side, where she's transmitting from. But I hope everybody's having a great Friday. Happy holidays, by the way. It's great to see everyone. I don't know how many people are actually gonna see this, whether in real time or in the future when it's like uploaded to IG, and of course on YouTube when this is all edited, all said and done. But either way, welcome to it. This will be episode 9 technically, as far as all the episodes that we've done. And I just want to shout out everybody who has watched the video, left commentary, shared it, subscribed to the channel, all that, which by the way is youtube.com/your Deprogrammed podcast. Truly appreciate it from Ari and I. And speaking of Ari, let's go searching for her. There she is. There she is. There she is. Hola, hola. Hola.
Hola.
Let me roll back a little bit. How you doing, lady?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to sit here and get some documents. How about you? How are you doing?
I was just trying to get the light in this room.
Yeah. Same. And my kids' art piece is on the back wall. So.
No, I get that. I get that. Yeah, Jerry, happy holidays to you, man. I'm glad that you're appreciating the work that we've been putting in, man. We haven't done an IG Live in a while. And as we're kind of like settling ourselves, we've been really advocating, trying to do more Friday episodes, like an IG Live episode. But we've kind of like situated how we want to do like recorded episodes and stuff. I think we found the right balance and the right spacing. So obviously you're going to get a lot more of those. But ever so often on a Friday like this one, you'll get us hopping on IG Live and talking our talk. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jason Andre Roberts, a.k.a. Conquest.
And I'm Ariana Aparicio, a.k.a. Ari.
Welcome to your Deprogrammed podcast. And yes, you are here, even if you didn't expect it to be present for your regularly scheduled Deprogramming. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, again, like I said before, Ari jumped on. She's rocking in the light. I'm somewhere in the darkness. I'm trying to get the best light in the room situation. I think I'm decent. You know, in post-production, I'll make it happen. You know what I'm saying?
What magic happens in post-production.
Absolutely. You know, and hopefully as the episode goes along, it'll get even better. I'm even situating the phone in a better way. So, you know, and I'm wearing all black too, so that doesn't always help. It's crazy. So listen, we're not going to waste time, man. It's a lot to talk about, like literally up to the minute things that we want to discuss. So before we get into it, I just want to say, and I don't want to even speak on this too long because we have a whole episode to get into in the future that speaks to what I'm about to say. But the cool thing about doing this podcast is that we get to talk about a lot of things that Ari and I would talk about on the phone or in person anyway. And a lot of it has a lot to do with shaping our world and the things that shape our world and shape our perspectives and shapes ourselves, you know? And I feel like this episode is no different. You know, I feel like every situation, whether it's pop culture, whether it's political, whether it's social commentary, whatever it is a teachable moment. So hopefully you get a bunch of teachable moments from today's episode, as per usual. And with that said, the last time you were on the Deprogrammed podcast, your Deprogrammed podcast to be more specific, we got excited about a certain album that dropped at the end of the year. Now, as a sidebar, one of the episodes that's coming is Conquest breaking down my favorite music of the year. Because it started with me reviewing Adam. Adam's a Christian hip-hop artist. Adam, ATTAM, to be more specific, dropped a project called Road Less Taken. And in reviewing that album, that made me review a lot more albums that came out this year. So I figure, you know, let's just look at all the music. Let's look at the field. And I'm going to talk about the best music I've heard this year and do a comprehensive breakdown about that. But with that being said, one of those albums for sure is GNX from Kendrick Lamar, who now I think it's any secret. I think he's been the MC of the year. I think he's been the rapper of the year, the artist of the year, the hip hop artist of the year. I don't think that's even a question. I don't think that's celebrity bias. I don't think that's recency bias. I think just certain things are just facts. Like death and taxes are expected. So is Kendrick Lamar being the outright biggest hip hop artist of the year. So yeah, Ari and I did listen to GNX, and Ari, I want to start with you. It's been nearly a month since it's been out, since it dropped on November 22nd. I think today is the 19th or the 20th, if I'm not mistaken. How are you feeling a month later?
My son still says he deserves it all every time he wakes up. So I think that is definitely okay. So I think that's definitely a testament to, and Squabble Up and Mustard and everything else that he can scream. That's like basically the cultural thing that Kendrick has made. And I think it's going to go well into 2025. It's going to go well into the summer of 2025. But he definitely succeeded in what I think he planned to do, which was be a cultural statement.
I agree.
So I'm excited for where it's going to evolve into. I don't even think we've gotten the full capacity yet because he hasn't done the tour or anything like that yet. He hasn't performed any of the songs live yet, so we haven't even gotten that effect yet. But so far, it's been resonating. It's been a cultural phenomena. People are quoting it all over the place. People are memeing it all over the place. And I think it's aging pretty well. And I don't even think we reached the height of it yet. So
yeah, there's a lot more. There's a lot more to be done with this album, and it's only a month old, but it's had quite an impact. Well, it's almost understated that it's had quite an impact. It's done 319,000 copies in the first week. One of the highest opening week numbers of the year, for sure. Had a bunch of songs invade the top 10 Billboard top 100 lists. Swallow Up is now another number one hit, his third of the year. But besides the accolades and the chart positioning, just judging the music, I still enjoy the heck out of that project. The only reason why I'm not listening to it more is because I'm listening to a bunch of other music going on. So I'm really trying to divide my time. But it hasn't lost its replay value. I think the album did what it's supposed to. I know there's been a lot of conversation about how it stacks up to the rest of the material that he's produced in terms of discography. Not only in terms of like if it's the best or the worst or the middle pack of his discography, but just in terms of the type of album it is. You know, it is very loosely based in terms of theme. I mean, there are kind of unifying themes on the album, but it's not like Mr. Morale, The Big Steppers. It's not like To Pimp a Butterfly. It's not like Good Kid, Mad City in terms of conceptual albums go. It's not so much that. And I think because of that, people liken it more to a mixtape than an album. But I think that to kind of go that route is kind of missing the point, because I feel like it was important for Kendrick to make an album like this, you know, that has a certain vibe. You know, it's like, you know, maybe not everything has to be conceptual. Maybe I just need to make this. And I feel like maybe it's more conceptual than you think. I think if we look at this album in 5 years, I think there's going to be a lot of different conversations being had than the ones that's being currently had about it now. But yeah, I think it's an amazing body of work. It's super enjoyable. I love the fact that people are recognizing how replayable it is. And I feel like most Kendrick albums are replayable, but I think they needed an album like this to be like, yo, I can throw this on in the gym. I can throw this when I'm going to the store. I can throw this on the way to the club if you do that, you know. And it's something that I can play over and over. Whereas you hear a song like The Crown off Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, you got to sit with that for a while and be like, well, I'll return to this when I'm in a different mood. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Yeah. So
you think
pretty
that
dope.
the conversation again, like we haven't even scratched the surface of what this cultural impact might be, let's just say 6 months from now.
Oh, nah, it's like you said. There's a whole stadium tour with SZA that's about to happen. SZA just dropped the deluxe edition of her last album, SOS, today. The Lana SOS Deluxe dropped today. You know, she got a song out right now that predominantly stars Ben Stiller in the video, singing and mouthing the words of SZA, which is such a juxtaposition, you know, but it just shows the forward thinking of TDE, Top Dog, those guys over there. They're always doing something new, and I always like fresh and new, and I think I can always rely on Top Dog to do that. So I say that to say that I can only imagine what Kendrick's going to do, not only with the tour, but with the songs. I hope I get more videos for the project. I feel like songs like Reincarnated could be incredibly conceptual. I can only imagine songs like, if he does a video for Man at the Garden, what that could look like. You know, TV Off, I feel like demands a video. I feel like that's a wasted opportunity if it doesn't happen, considering all the catchphrasings and the impact that song is going to have from the Super Bowl beyond. So yeah, man, I think we're just scratching the surface of this album that's already done so much. You know, to drop at the last quarter of the year and still be up for Album of the Year, or at least make the top 10, is amazing work, you know. But it's just a testament to what Kendrick did this year.
I agree. I completely agree.
Definitely made a lot of space, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But for every victory, there is the agony of defeat. And when, you know, when GNX dropped, and granted, when we did this episode for the GNX album, we wanted to talk about that, but we spent 2 hours and 16 minutes talking about GNX alone, because it was worth every 2 hour and 40, or rather 60-minute mark that we did and used and utilized talking about it. But there was so much other things to cover. But yeah, the defeat I'm talking about is my man, Aubrey Dre Graham. So right around the time that GNX dropped, I want to say not even 24 hours later came a lawsuit, or at least a petition. I want to make sure I get my litigation verbiage correct. Drake pretty much sent a petition leading up to a lawsuit against Spotify, UMG, and anybody who posted against Kendrick, or rather Drake, during the battle. No, he didn't do that. No. DeMar DeRozan and LeBron James didn't get sued. Russell Westbrook wasn't sent a cease and desist for dancing on top of the stage during the pop out, but he might as well have done that, because that's really what happened. Drake is setting up to sue UMG and Spotify for inflated numbers and defamation. You know, it's a little bit even more layered than that, but those are the things that has happened. Right. And there's been a gang of conversation in regards to that. People saying that how it was blasphemous for Drake to even attempt doing a lawsuit after a battle that he clearly lost. It made him look weak. It made him look suspect. It made him look like a Karen in a lot of people's eyes. It was just not a great look. And the wild thing about this lawsuit, or this petition towards the lawsuit, is that, you know how they say timing is everything? This is a classic case, because I truly believe that if Drake had done this lawsuit in a different time period, let's say pre-battle, or any other time before, any time before March 1st, okay? Any time before March 1st, if he had done this, then this would have been framed differently, because what he's suing or attempting to sue for, particularly in the first instance in terms of like numbers and artists inflating and streaming and streaming practices going awry, It is not a bad thing. In fact, it is something that we've been trying to fight because we know that these streaming numbers and streaming farms and the abuse of bots is very skewed. We know that. And independent artists in particular feel the brunt of that more than anything else,
Yes,
right? So you could think that Drake is fighting a noble cause, but this is Drake, unfortunately, that we're talking about. And this Drake is not doing anything out of the goodness of his heart, no matter how it's framed. He is pretty much launching an offensive that is taking it to the courtroom as opposed to the recording booth, because he clearly lost there. So now we're here. Now we're in this space, ladies and gentlemen. So he's doing that. And even though, again, there's, and you know, Nari and I talk about this all the time, is like, and that's why we call, we kind of nicknamed this episode the Great Deprogramming, you know. A little bit after us, but really about the topic that we're talking about now, or just everything that we're going to cover in this episode, because there is a deprogramming that needs to happen. The music biz is trash in terms of how artists are compensated, how artists are promoted in certain cases, and how other artists are not being promoted in other cases, which is such a layered conversation in of itself that we'll get to. But yeah, so Drake's lawsuit falls in line with that, but obviously he is trying to cover his tail when it comes to this, right? Now, I said all that to say, and I've said a lot, right? A new report, Ari, that I don't think you've seen, because this literally happened 2 hours ago, has happened. So I'm gonna go to the trusty laptop over here that I have. And as I set it up, Ari, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on what I've said so far?
I think it's very, very multi-layered. I think that from what I've seen, people are split between if Drake is like the unsung hero going after UMG, or if he's just doing it because his ego got damaged beyond all repair. But to me, it would definitely be a case of if Drake didn't do it, someone had to do it. And right. I think that with Drake doing it, I think it's divine irony, because UMG made Drake. I think that the last thing on anyone's bingo card for 2024 was that their best-selling artist, which is not argument, I mean, other than, I guess, Taylor and them, but definitely in hip-hop, the best-selling artist ever would turn around and sue them for the method that made him the best-selling artist of all time in the hip-hop superstar.
That made him a superstar, and according to
superstar, it made him stand on the foundation of I'm one of the big three, if not the top of the big three. Absolutely. So I think the irony of it is just laughable. I laugh about it with you all the time, as you know. But I think someone had to do it. I think that artists, me, you talk about this a lot, but I stand firm on a lot of the opinions I have. I don't think artists do enough to fight against the labels. I don't think artists do enough to fight against their lack of pay. Me, talk about the entertainment industries all the time. The writers of Hollywood have a guild in the union. The actors have a guild in the union. I don't know why artists don't. I don't know what title was supposed to be. I don't trust Jay-Z as far as I can throw him, and I'm not that strong. My fiance is a little stronger than me, but I don't think he would even try to pick up and throw Jay-Z either. I think that there needs to be some type of advocacy for artists. And I think until people band together, until artists band together, this is the closest to tackling the system and restructuring the system that we're going to get, which is, hey, Drake outed the way that he got boosted by fake numbers and fake views, calling out UMG's marketing strategy, and basically claimed Kendrick was doing the same strategies that UMG was doing for him. So I don't think it worked in his favor to take a shot at Kendrick, but what I think it allows everyone to do is to get a inside view as to how these record companies are basically boosting numbers, making people popular on just a whim. They're backing whoever they want to back. They're backing the narrative that they want to spin. And this actually goes back into what you were saying with artists not only getting underpaid, but then when you see them undermarketed, when you see that they've been in the industry for decades, but they don't get their push, even though they've been super consistent, even though they've been talking about either controversial talkers like me, you were talking about Ab Soul the other day, whether it be you and Christian hip hop, that you guys have been consistently spreading the message of Christianity, but it never gets pushed that far. The biggest artist you all have in that space is Lecrae. So even in things like that, I feel like, again, Drake is an ironic hero in that he did not aim to be the hero. I think he's doing this all to feed his ego and get back at his opponent because he doesn't know any other way to do it. But it does net positive, have net positive results for everyone for all the artists that were sitting here looking at Spotify going like, wow, this is not as automated as what you guys make it seem. There's still humans behind it pushing whoever they want to push. So I think it definitely starts the bigger conversation of how do artists begin to even tackle something like that? Do you guys go independent more? Do you guys, I posted something on Instagram saying that Spotify made $23 billion in the quarter, and that's profit. So that means after they paid out their artists, after they paid out expenses, after they paid their salaries, they're sitting on that money. How is that artist not paid more per stream if you're sitting on $23 billion of profit? That's ridiculous to me. But
and
this is not.
And the CEO alone was able to pocket $345 million by himself.
Right. And this goes back to the argument of artists knowing their power and even consumers as a whole knowing their power. They're nothing without you. I'm not an artist. You are. They're nothing without you. There is nothing for artists to band together and say, hey, listen, we're not using Spotify anymore. We're not going to use it anymore. That is how you challenge them. You challenge them by taking away your product. You are the product that they're selling. So until artists get it together and start to band together like that, like I said, that was the title dream, I guess. I think it is time for artists to unionize, because when you see when you see this information, when you see this stuff, there should be something looming in the background somewhere where someone was just like, well, it doesn't matter that Drake did that because we've been doing this. And we've just been waiting for someone to expose UMG so that we can take all the artists that are fed up and get them all over here. I don't know if someone in the industry has been doing that. Like you said, we mentioned Tidal a lot. But again, I wouldn't trust Jay-Z with doing that because to me, he hasn't stood on anything that he ever advocated for. He couldn't boycott the Grammys properly. He didn't finish Tidal. So, and he has too many conflicting interests between the Grammys and Rock Nation and all the other partners he has all invested and intertwined into his companies. So I wouldn't trust anyone that invested in the profit of these companies to then advocate for artists at the same time. To me, that's such a big conflict of interest. So those are my
your point. I will say this, because I think all of that is well and good and great forward and progressive thinking. I think for artists to boycott Spotify in the multitudes, like completely boycott it, like just out now, we don't use this program anymore. It would take some very influential artists in of themselves to lead the charge. And I guess that's what maybe Tidal was supposed to be. I'd have to do a little bit more research on that to really break down what the full intention was. I remember watching a Tidal video when they were presenting the idea and making their debut. And I just remember a lot of the comment section saying that how, oh, wow, it's a new streaming platform where it's a bunch of rich billionaires getting richer. You know, I remember that being the predominant speak in those comment sections for those videos. So, yeah, I think that if major artists, like right now, the biggest selling artist in any form of genre of music right now is Taylor Swift. If Taylor Swift out now said, yo, I am not using any streaming platform anymore. I'm not using Apple.
Honestly, I would argue, I just want to make a point to your point. I would argue that it doesn't take a lot of big artists, and I think this is why capitalism gets away with a lot of the stuff that it does. All the smarter artists make more money than Taylor Swift could ever make. It would take a group of small artists, a massive group. Taylor Swift could not move Spotify alone. They're making more money off of you guys. They're making more money off the little artists that doesn't feel like they deserve pay. That's where they're getting all of their profit from. They're not making, I mean, I don't know if they make profit off of Taylor, but all I know is that all the money they don't pay you, they pay her and they push marketing behind her. So
Right.
I don't think it takes big names behind it, because if they haven't spoken now, they're not going to. And I think rather than smaller artists waiting for some big artists who profit from the system working this way, which is why, again, Drake didn't call them out because he started getting underpaid. And he was just like, yeah, this isn't fair. I'm going to stand up for people. No, he's trying to take shots at Kendrick, and he took a shot at himself. He's, what's his name from 8 Mile? Right, when he shot himself in the foot, he's like, that's what he basically did. But he thought he was big and bad, waving the gun around. It doesn't take someone like Taylor Swift, and I think that's just revolution as a whole. Looking at human history, you don't wait for the people who profit off of the system to stand up for you. It takes the small artists who are unknown to band together and be like, we won't take this anymore because you definitely make more money off of us. Then you can find Taylor in there, Drake in there. Take your top 5 popular Spotify artists of all time. All the little artists that produce trillions of streams, trillions. You guys dominate Spotify, but they make you seem little.
Right.
And that's why it destroys the rebellious spirit, right? Like, oh, who am I? Who am I to stand up to Spotify? Well, think about you and 100,000 other artists. Just 100,000. Being like, we're going over to, like you said, Bandcamp, or we're going over to some other platform to start to push that.
Right.
They lose that money, right? So that's my thought on it. I don't think they waiting for a big artist to say something like that. It just, again, it screams conflict of interest to me, and it screams, well, why would I take money out of my own pocket? Now, it's not saying that some artists won't do that, but yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, but the reason why I mentioned Taylor Swift is not in the sense of it'd be great that she do it, but what I'm saying is that I'm using as an example of someone who is that successful and that having that type of influence, doing something so left of center that other people start to be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it too. The reason why I use her as an example is because when she got sued, or no, let me rephrase that. When she wanted to buy back the rights to her album, she was like, you know what? Since this guy, Scooter Braun, took my original copies, I'm going to make my own and reclaim my masters that way. The minute she started doing that, I started noticing other artists like Ashanti and other people doing the same exact thing because they just recently discovered through her and her being such a bigger artist that, yo, she's doing that. I can do that too. So with that being said, it would take independent artists to either coalesce that way in an organized manner,
right,
or have somebody who is maybe not obviously Taylor Swift large or influential, but somebody or a group of independent artists who are like really great at what they do or impactful, coming together and being like, yo, let's lobby all these other people. Because unfortunately, some people get courage or feel a greater empowerment when they see other people like them doing it. It's just like, oh, I didn't think this was possible. I didn't think that I can do this. I thought I had to fit in the system, but it would really take somebody who has some sort of influence, and in the sense that, and we've talked about this before, and I don't want to stay too much longer on this, but what I'm saying is that, like I've been a big advocate for Bandcamp and now Even, which is popular, to have your music on there first before they even go to streaming platforms. I've had an artist reach out to me and other artists reach out to me like, yo, how does this Bandcamp thing work? Because they saw me do it and they wanted to see what success could look like for them, right? Because I already set an example. It could have, and my thing is that it would have to take a lot of people coalescing like that to have that type of influence, where it's just like, hey, all the bigger names in the independent circuit coming together and saying, hey, we are not rocking with this and we're doing it this way now. and I've seen it even in the Christian hip hop space, because when one of the bigger artists in this space named No Big Deal started using even as a counterpart to Bandcamp to start putting out music that way so that he could make more money off of that as opposed to streaming, I started seeing other artists start to follow the code because a bigger name independent artist started doing it. So it always takes that one person who is already deemed kind of successful to kind of like set a trend, because if I did it, not saying I'm not worth anything, but it's just like, again, and we know this as business people, it's just like, it's like, I'll follow you, but I mean, you're not that successful. I mean, you don't have these numbers. You don't look like this other person. So I'm not saying it's impossible. It's not impossible, but it's a harder sell as opposed to somebody else who has greater accolades to be like, oh, that person is doing it and he don't need to do it, but he's doing it. Maybe I might follow along. So it worked. It's kind of like one of those things where the more influential I become and I band with more people who I can influence to do a thing, then I think change starts to happen. But to your greater point, I already had a certain, even though I have whatever moderate level of success, whatever success you want to term my doing, I've already had influence on people trying to follow my model, right? I've already had people say, hey, Quest doesn't look great, but Quest uses Bandcamp. Seems to work for him. Maybe I'll try it. Let me ask him about that. Hey, Quest, how come you're doing that? So I would encourage, to your greater point, I would encourage anybody to be like, you know what? Even though I may not be the biggest name, let me buck the trend. And maybe that might start a domino effect. Yeah, but I think the domino effect really hits when it's like, having somebody even more influential or even more successful, I think makes the domino effect happen faster. Is pretty much what
I agree.
But you have to start. You have to start. You don't want to. What you don't want to do is wait for somebody to do it and be like, well, let me do it. And I think that's the point you're trying to get.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we could touch and agree on this point, like what you said. When you want change, you don't wait for it.
Right.
You make it. So to me, again, and just to pin on a point that you said, there has not been any major change that has been done by any major leader without all the followers of that leader. So what I mean by that is that this is how governments and this is how power structures basically cripple revolution. They cripple it by saying that you alone with, again, I don't know what metrics of success you give yourself, but I can take any other business model, I can take any other industry, and I can take human history, I can take business revolution, I can take when people crashed the stock market. Those were regular people. When they crashed the market for GameStop a couple years ago, that was a group of 1,000 Reddit users who were common like me and you. These were just regular consumers. They weren't stock market traders. They weren't brokers. They weren't making $100,000 a year. These were 1,000 people in a Reddit post that said, we're going to up the stock of GameStop. And the hedge funders got so mad that they wanted to basically press criminal charges because they said that they were gaming the system, and they said all this stuff. I was like, oh, the same stuff y'all do every day, right? Same things you guys do every day. When the regular civilian does it, it's criminal. Right. But when you guys do it, you call it business, and you call it competition. You call it healthy competition. This is the same mindset that I think artists need to adapt. No, 1,000 of you are equal to a Taylor Swift. How they tend to do that is they make you seem like Taylor Swift is untouchable. Taylor Swift is the economy. Taylor Swift is this. They do this all the time, and that's why media and marketing is so great, right? Because you can make people believe in this narrative that might not be real. It might not be real. Every revolution I've ever come across in human history is never done by the people who are even majorly successful, majorly in power, majorly in anything. They're done by regular civilians that you walk past in the street. Right. So I think what artists need to come to, and I don't know where artistry is, I feel like with this year, a lot of industries kind of got blown wide open. But I think it's time for artists to hold more of that power in their own hands. I get how the system has discouraged you. I get how it's made you feel unappreciated. I get how it made you feel under-supported. But actors felt like that too, and that's why they unionized. Writers felt like that too, that's why they unionized.
Right.
I don't know why artists don't have a union. I don't know why, because that's the whole point of a union. Hey, listen, I have 10,000 regular workers that will go on strike tomorrow if you don't give them equal pay. Why can artists say, hey, listen, I have 10,000 artists that are spread across these labels that will not come into work tomorrow unless you give them equal marketing budget? That's what a union is. And it's not talking about the Taylor Swifts and the Kendrick Lamars. It's talking about the 10,000 regular. I'm making a living off my art. I'm making a good 70, let's say $60,000 to $100,000 a year. What you're saying is the average cost of living now to live comfortably. I'm making $60,000 to $100,000 a year just doing my music.
Yeah.
And take 10,000 of you doing that. I'll let you do the math. What's 10,000 times 100,000? You don't think Spotify will buckle? You don't think Spotify will be like, oh shoot, wait a minute. They're talking about taking these artists and having them go on strike. That is something that is completely unheard of. I've never heard artists in the music industry doing that. And it only takes the regular people. So I think the discouraging part of it is that artists do feel like battered and bruised, right? And then a lot of you talk about the ego of the artist all the time. Like, oh, I'm the one that's going to be different. I'm going to be the household name. Every one of you think like that, which is fine to think that way. But then when all of you guys are being attacked the same way, why not join together? All of you are being attacked the same way, no matter how individually you like to make it seem. The battle is against all of you. Right. All the same. All of you guys get underpaid. While the people that get off your product are basically laughing and clinking martinis in Dubai somewhere, right? So...
But the answer to your question has a lot to do with an ego death that's yet to happen, because of the simple fact that people feel like, hey, I'm the one that's going to change it all by myself. And that's not half the time.
It never does.
Like you can get it started, you know what I'm saying? But most revolutions, like significant revolutions throughout the course of time, has not been a one-man operation. I mean, you can't win a championship in sports by yourself. So far less for a major revolution. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jordan had Pippen. Kobe had Shaq, or Shaq had Kobe. You know, LeBron had AD, Kyrie, and Dwayne Wade in different points of his career. It was never by themselves. So it really has to constitute a different level of thinking. Yeah.
I'm not saying that I condone murder in any way, but the whole thing about greed is hitting every industry. That's why Luigi unalived the CEO of United Healthcare, right? Because people are getting tired of the corporate greed that everyone is affected by. Artists are not individual to that. There are people who are getting denied healthcare while the CEOs are making millions of dollars, while the company is profiting billions of dollars. People are getting denied claims. How do you do that? Right. Why is healthcare a for-profit, not a non-profit? It's for the people. Why would you try to profit in healthcare?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so the greed is what everyone's tackling. Yeah. Yes, baby.
And for the record, for those listening, and I think it almost should go without saying, but you know, the net is the net, and the internet's going to do crazy things, right? And twist words sometimes. I highly believe that no one should be gunned down in the middle of the street, you know. That sucks. That's going to live on the internet forever. That person was a father. That person was a husband. That person was somebody's friend, brother, family member, gunned down violently in the street. At the same time, it came from a place of frustration. And who's to say, depending on how this thing is set up, that the person gunned down in the middle of the street could literally have been advocating for the same thing the person who was gunning for him was fighting for. Who's to say? I mean, you just never know. The guy could have been an innocent bystander in all of this, but somebody had to pay the piper, unfortunately, and it's just a microcosm. It's a message.
Drake sent the message. Drake unintentionally sent a message to every artist that basically Spotify and UMG are behind, which is there's humans behind this pushing who they want to push. What artists decide to do with that information, you cannot say that the Most High or God or Buddha or the universe did not give you an opportunity, because he let the truth be known. The universe let the truth be known to artists that this affected. Hey, listen, they're pushing narratives. Do we want to support people who do that, or do we want to go independent from artists or from people who do that? So it's the same thing. Tying it back to Luigi, people are going to have to make a conscious decision. Are we still fighting for universal health care? Do we think it's even fair that healthcare is our for-profit? Like, he started the message. I'm not saying that he related at all in the most beneficial way possible. But when the Most High uses people, what this basically shows to me is a level of frustration that everyone has with corporate greed.
Right.
Corporate greed is the enemy. Corporate greed is the thing that everyone's sitting here while we are in inflation, while we're sitting here struggling for groceries, while we're sitting here paying rent higher than what we've ever paid ever, and why artists are getting pennies on the dollar for 100 streams. You see what I'm saying? It's just like, that is corporate greed at its finest. And if you don't feel like you have that power of an individual, it only takes a million of you guys feeling defeated for them to still be at Dubai clinking glasses, because they don't feel like you guys are going to fight them. They feel like they discourage you guys so much that you're sitting here, me and you're talking on podcasts. We've had somebody comment to the post I made where they were just like, well, I wouldn't encourage everyone to drop off Spotify. Why not? They don't pay you. What are they doing for you? Well, they play me in different countries and the third that they don't pay you for. So they push you all out there for no one to pay you for it. But guess who is getting paid for it? Them.
345 million for one person. Which, by the way, because I did some math for some future content that's coming very soon, 345 million is 115 billion streams, and that's the equivalent. So you do the math, right?
Right.
Speaking of Spotify and Drake, right?
Speaking of,
so like I said, we're getting up to the minute news about this because, again, this has been going on for the last month. As long as Kendrick's GNX has been out, this situation has been out. So it's been a daily news story that's evolving as the days go by. So I'm reading from Billboard.com. Billboard, for those who don't know, is how music is tallied and charted. It's like, hey, if you want to know what the #1 album is in the US and China and Europe and all these things, it's a culmination of album sales, streaming numbers, and all that. So that's how you determine the #1 album in the country, who gets the most airplay, #1 song, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's Billboard, right? So Billboard reports that Spotify responds to Drake's UMG legal action, lasting false claims and demanding dismissal. I'll read that again. Spotify responds to Drake's UMG legal action, blasting the false claims and demanding dismissal. So it's a long article, but I'm going to get to the key points, right? So as we know, and as I said before, a petition was filed by Drake accusing Spotify and UMG of nefarious behavior. I'll just say that, right? So I'll read this. I'll read this. This new filing is the first response to a petition filed last month in which Drake accused UMG and Spotify of an illegal scheme involving bots. Now, for those who, again, maybe under a rock, or just don't know, bots are just computer programming to inflate numbers and gain an advantage. Bots are used for music. Bots are used to manipulate numbers on your social media. Bots are used to go on Adidas and try and get the Yeezys before anybody else. Bots are bots, right?
People, yeah. Fake people.
Yeah. So involving bots, payola, and other methods to pump up Lamar's song, a track that savagely attacked Drake amid an ongoing feud between the two stars. In a motion filed Friday in a Manhattan court, the streaming giant says it has found zero evidence to support the claims of a bot attack and flatly denies that it struck any deal with UMG to support Lamar's song. It also goes on to say the predicate of the petitioner's entire request for discovery from Spotify is false. Again, the predicate of the petitioner's entire request for discovery from Spotify is false. The company's lawyers write. Spotify and UMG have never had such an arrangement. Beyond denying the allegations, the filing repeatedly criticizes Drake for going to court in the first place, calling his claims of a conspiracy far-fetched and speculative, and questioning why Spotify, a stranger to the long-running feud between Drake, Kendrick, and UMG, is even involved. Spotify also criticized Drake for the way he brought his claims to court, not as a full-fledged lawsuit, but as an unusual pre-action petition aimed at demanding information. The company accused Drake of using that extraordinary procedure because his allegations are too flimsy to pass muster in an actual lawsuit and would have been quickly dismissed. What the petitioner is seeking to do here is to bypass the normal pleading requirements and obtain by way of pre-action discovery that which it would be only entitled to seek where it to survive a motion to dismiss. I'll read that over. What the petitioner is seeking to do here is to bypass the normal pleading requirements and obtain by way of pre-action discovery that which it would only be entitled to seek where it were to survive a motion to dismiss. Spotify lawyers writes, this subversion of the normal judicial process should be rejected. The spokesman for Drake and his legal team did not immediately return a request or comment to Spotify's filings. Yeah, so Spotify in essence said the whole thing is BS. It's like your petition is arms that's too short to box with the god that is UMG and Spotify, and you shouldn't have even done it. And we have no connection to this feud that you and Kendrick have as far as like the whole beef is concerned. It's all baloney. It's whack. That's what it is. It's interesting that it took a month to respond though, because I feel like well maybe I don't know, for something this huge maybe they need a month to kind of like gather their evidence and figure out what's going on and prepare a case or prepare a response. So for what they said here, I just thought I thought it was kind of odd that they took a month to say this, because this is the first time Spotify has actually responded to these claims, and like we said, Drake has been talking this talk for at least a month. But with that being said, what do you think of what Spotify said here?
Two things come to thought immediately. One would be that I think they wanted to see how serious Drake was with pursuing this. Mm-hmm. And then once they kind of gauged it, that's when they made the response. I think that's why it took so long, because if Drake was as serious as what he led us to believe, then it would have been an actual lawsuit that he filed. It wouldn't have just been a petition. Right. The second thing I think is that, and this I think goes back to my point earlier, they were trying to see how the public would respond. Yeah. And I don't think that the public made enough noise, because so many people were on Drake that I was just like, man, if I was the Most High, I'd sit here and just shake my head and like hit my head like this, where I'm just like, I use everybody. The Most High uses everybody. Right. Artists had a chance to jump on this like it was the next thing coming. You didn't hear no outrage from any artist talking about UMG, how could you? Spotify, how could you? You already did profit. You already do this. You already use me for that. You already don't market me. You already don't do all this stuff. And now you have one of your best-selling artists telling me that you guys basically gamed the system? No, every artist is just like, Drake is lame. Drake is mad he lost. Drake is such and such. I'm like, use the information, guys. Like, he literally came out and outed y'all biggest threat. Again, you said God. Yeah. Just the ideology of that. It's just like, man, like, can people just start to decompartmentalize people from the thing that the Most High is using them for? I don't care how lame Drake is. I don't care how bad he lost his battle. He just sued one of the biggest, if not the biggest, distribution and music companies in the whole world. And no artist jump on that. No artist just be like, okay, let's just band together and go against them. Because Drake is a lame and a nerd, and Drake lost, and Drake's ego. I'm like, yo, y'all are missing the whole point. But again, this is not my fight to have. So here's the thing, and this also goes to a point that you made earlier as far as like why artists and why people aren't unionizing. Again, you know me, I consume a lot of artistic content, from the actual music to the actual interviews. I'm always interested in hearing what artists have to say on all sides of the fence. I consume that pretty constantly. And I've heard Fat Joe been asked this
question in two forms. I heard him being asked about this on the Breakfast Club, and I've heard him be asked about this particular thing, the whole UMG part on Matt Hoffa. And there's a reason why certain people get asked these questions, because it's like, you talk about everything else, right? Fat Joe, even though he's still putting out music, that's another rapper who put out music this year. Yeah, he just dropped an album the same day that he dropped, the same day with Snoop and Dre. He just dropped an album. But we know you more now for being a commentator on the culture. You know, during the pandemic, you, just like everybody else, you utilize IG Live to do interviews and all these other things and talk to various artists and speak on the culture. You have a show on Stars now, you know, your own talk show. So, of course, with something as sensitive as the UMG situation and the Spotify situation, we want to hear your commentary as one of our cultural hip-hop leaders. So when Fat Joe was asked about it, in both situations, he said, no comments. Like, he refused to talk about it. It's like, really, no comment? It's like, yeah, no comment. I don't want to talk about that. In fact, he did a reverse Uno when he was asked it on The Breakfast Club, because DJ Envy, Charlemagne the God, Jess Hilarious asked the question to him when they were interviewing him there, and of course he said no comment. And then he flipped it and he said, well, what do y'all think? Mind you, he's the one being interviewed, but he spun it. It's like, I'm not going to talk about it, but what do y'all think? And all three of the personalities who run the Breakfast Club answered. And then Charlemagne thinking that since you got us to talk about it, I'm going to come back. So, yeah, what do you think now that we've said that? Yeah, still no comment. And I was just like, that's a cowardly move. That's cowardice at the highest. And he's not the only artist who's done that. I've seen that more than once. I'm just mentioning Fat Joe because I've seen Fat Joe twice deny it. I just don't remember the rest of them. But no artist wants to talk about this UMG thing.
And that's what happens when you wait for your idols to make the move. They benefit too much from the machine that you're trying to break. The only people who are trying to break this machine are the ones who are being basically exploited by it. Mm-hmm. But the people who already profit from it, they don't have an interest to break it. That's like if, I don't know, that's like if someone,
even if they're barely profiting off of it too.
Yeah, like let's just say a kid was getting chocolate from a store.
Yeah.
And then they get for free. And then they find out that the chocolate is unethically sourced. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, do the likelihood of that kid going and tattling on that person who gives them chocolate is what?
Well, for free is nil.
Is nil, right? Because it benefits me. Why would I tell on them? Even though I know it's wrong, even though all this stuff is like, man, like, look at the slave labor that goes into performing chocolate. And this is a real thing, by the way. There's a lot of slave labor behind getting chocolates to the United States and stuff. Mm-hmm. But like, even when you know that, it's like you still go and buy chocolate when you get the craving because it benefits you some way. So that is the likelihood of when people benefit from a system, you waiting for the people who it benefits to say something against it. And more power to those people, because there are people who will sit here and be like, yo, I get paid from this massively. And I don't think it's right. You're basically trying to ask people to be loyal to God and not loyal to money. Mm-hmm. Be loyal to the right thing and not be loyal to the thing that benefits you. Yeah. And that already, by biblical standards, is a rarity, right? Like that, sacrificing all your worldly pleasure for doing what God calls you to do and doing what God tells you is the right thing to do, that's a rarity in itself. So that's the system you guys are fighting against. And what more or what better fitting than Christian hip hop to take the lead in that, if anything? Because if anything, you guys get the ones of you that are really, really about God, really about doing the right thing and saying, hey, listen, I don't care if we have to sit here and do a massive collaboration to where we get business together and we pay ourselves. How about I don't have to wait for the Bandcamp people? How about y'all pay yourselves? Right? Mm-hmm. Right? That's how it starts. You start your own company, bump everyone else that you're talking about, because comparison will make it seem like you're so small. Comparison will be like, wow, like, who am I? Who am I to these giants? Who am I to the people who, David and Goliath? You don't need to be a giant to take down a giant. So it starts like that. And again, it's just a human spirit. And I think these corporations do a good job of belittling and soul crushing the human spirit.
Yeah, that's exactly the human spirit. The element of bravery, all those things. That's why I purposely phrased it like I said, the arms too short with the gods called Spotify, because they're looked at as gods in our space, in our existence and stuff like that. You know, for me as an artist who has music out on all platforms, including the ones that are off streaming platforms like Bandcamp and such and such, you know, I'm thinking about music that I want to do in the future. And, you know, I've been using Bandcamp since 2012. This is not new. Bandcamp's been around that long. And every release that I've ever made, whether I think it's great music or not, is on my Bandcamp page. I have released 7 albums. Only 3 of them are on streaming platforms. The first 4 are not. So I've released 7 albums. 4 of them are not on streaming platforms. 3 are, right? And then that's also not counting the mixtapes I've done, all these things. The only conflict I've had as far as like taking my music completely off of streaming platforms is more of the idea of the reach in terms of the amount of people that can hear my music, particularly for evangelical purposes. It's like, you know, one of the things that I live by and even brand a lot of my music by is 28:19, based on Matthew 28:19, where it says, "Go forth and make disciples of all the nations." It is a missionary call. So at the very least, you want to, if you can't physically get to the ends of the earth to have people hear your music, you want it to travel as far as possible. And everybody has a phone. Everybody is locked into some sort of streaming platform, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Apple, whether it's Google, whether it's whatever, whether it's Spotify. So, so for me, it's more than a stat. Like, oh, my stuff got heard in 93 countries. It's more of like, hey, the message God gave me got heard in places far beyond where I live in my own personal circumference. And at present, I'm not big enough of an artist, whereas people will go seek me out from wherever to find me on my website or my Bandcamp, but they could accidentally hear my music because maybe they listen to Kendrick's new song and on random Conquest pops up. And it's like, oh, this guy is dope. In fact, and I can testify to that because some of my favorite artists who I love right now, bought merch and going to concerts for, I found them randomly when I was in a Mastodon playlist. And then I discovered Gojira. Then I discovered Catatonia. Then I discovered all these metal bands that I love now. You know what I'm saying? Just random, right? So that literally is the caveat that I struggle with. But so that's something that I have to determine, work towards, figure out, troubleshoot, and understand. But one thing I am an advocate for is that if you can put your music and encourage people to go to Bandcamp or your website first to get your music, I highly recommend that. Like, go there first. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it'll end up on streaming platforms later, but go there first to buy my music. Whether it's $50, 25, I've seen people charge $100 for their product on those platforms. Go get it there first, because it doesn't mean anything where it's like you get 1 million streams on this and it looks cool on Instagram, but you only made $1,000. Well, you know it's not even just $1,000 to make a song. You know what I'm saying? So there's got to be some sort of like equity and balance somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not going to jump off streaming platforms completely, at the very least, get people to support you independently that way, through merch, through shows, through, you know what I'm saying? Again, straight to consumer, you know? I think Curtis King does a really great job of that. And he's been a source of inspiration and guiding light because he advocates that. I don't think a lot of his music, and even he's had the struggle. I've heard him talk like, yo, I've had my music off streaming platforms, and then for some reason I had to put it back on, and now it's off again. So it's all those things. It's not built on indecisiveness. It is pretty much built on understanding what it is to beat the system. You know what I'm saying? Beat the system and eventually break it down and rebuild again. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree. I agree, but I think Curtis suffers from the same thing that I just mentioned. And Curtis King is also someone we look at his content all the time. Yeah. You're just you. And I think that's the ego of an artist. You're just you. You're just you. And you're not something bigger until you have a team. You're not. You're just a person of you. You're a power of you. Like we said, I brought up Luigi for a reason. He got the CEO of United Healthcare. People don't even realize that and me, you talked about it, I was like, there are board members that are more powerful than the CEO. He probably didn't even have voting power enough to change any policy that United Healthcare puts into 2025. Right. All they did was shoot the figurehead. That's all that they did. If you don't think there's 1,000 other CEOs that are already ready to take I was like, they probably made United Healthcare another 10 million. There's something called key person insurance. And if you don't think that the threat of his life is high, that's probably the first thing he got when he got hired for the position was, hey, listen, we're going to put life insurance on you because you are a person of high interest. You are a person that could be a very, very high risk target. So Luigi probably made the person that he despised more money. That's the lack of follow through that people have. My only, I agree with you. I don't think it's indecisive. I think people need to know their battles and they need to know their fights. They need to know what fight they're living or a fight that they're going after, because the same reason as to why you would say, hey, listen, my greater mission is to get my message out there no matter what. It's the same thing that Spotify counts on. Right. It's the same reasonings. People say it in other ways, like, hey, listen, I wanted to reach as far world as I can. If I hear more, if I get more streams in Italy, I'm going to move to Italy. Whatever the case may be, artists are suffering from underpayment. It's not reach. It's not reach. It's not reach. Social media broke that. It's not reach for your music. You guys are being underpaid for your music. Being played in 93 different countries at a time, I would say even 2 decades, that was unheard of. Unless you were some type of major star, that was unheard of, that you get paid in 93 different countries. And then if Drake's lawsuit is to believe, we don't know if those metrics are real. But let's just say that they are, right? Let's just say the metrics are real and you're really getting played there. Reach is not the issue because social media made it so that you can talk to people on the other side of the world. If you post a song, some random person from anywhere in social media space can come and listen to you. The problem
If you manipulate social media well enough, you can
just making your page public. Just making the page public means that you give yourself the possibility of getting reached by 7 billion plus people. So it's not only knowing your fight, but Curtis King is a prime example of the reason why he feels himself going back on, to coming back off, to coming back on, which is why Spotify, not to take anything away from Curtis, but Spotify laughs at that. You know my expertise is in business. I've heard CEOs call consumers dumb. I've heard CEOs call consumers ignorant. I've heard them. They talk down because people don't understand. They don't understand the power they have just being them. And then when y'all group together, you guys are unstoppable. The only industry I see that happening is in music. Because when the writers went on strike in Hollywood, Stephen Colbert couldn't come out on live. And that show was a top 5 prime TV show. Right. He couldn't come out and do his thing because his joke writers went on strike. No one could move. No one was releasing movies. They stopped the whole guild from releasing releasing trailers. So people could even know what next projects were coming out. That is the power behind there's actors me and you don't even know of. There's actors that make a living doing what they call it,
voice work. You know,
but how about the people who are just like the background extras? There's people who make livings. They get paid like $100,000 just being an extra in every film and commercial that you see.
Yeah.
Their agent always booking them for something. They all went on strike together. It didn't matter how big that actor was or how small it was, because they were all part of a union. They were all fighting for each other. There's nothing like that in the music industry, and I don't know why. That could be something that I get shot for. That could be something that I'm just trying to question. But it's just like, why is it that in music, which is still, I think, the top 5 within the top 5 export of the United States, especially hip hop, why is it that in the top 5 industries you don't find a union?
I think the question to that, I think the answer to that lies in how the union for actors was formed. I feel like I'd be very interested to see how that union was formed, who started it, who was involved, how it came together, and how it gained strength and built foundation, and see if it's something that's, I'm sure it's applicable to music, but I'd be interested to see how the history of that came to be and what's happening within popular music to go against that or repel against it. I think that's a very credible question, because it's just like, is it because an actor is it because an actor's livelihood is dependent on self and an agent as opposed to an artist who signed? Who knows? Like, I want to know what the ramifications are. I don't think it's impossible. I just want to know what the obstacles are to break the impossibility of it, the seeming impossibility.
You know this. It's not impossible. I've worked for those clients. Yeah. So I've worked for those clients. A team of 8 people in a nonprofit I represent makes a good $500,000 a year. There's a nonprofit that I can speak to everyone who's watching the live or watches posts, who makes $1 million a year that no one in your community or mine has ever heard of. It's the biggest lie saying the money's not out there. You guys are just not advocating and looking for it correctly. Right. It's just a correct approach. Right. So the correct approach is the collective. The wrong approach is I'm independent, I'm me. No one gets anything done like that. No one gets it done with I'm me, I'm going to do this by myself. Okay, good luck. So now imagine there's a whole industry that's like that. There's a whole industry that's like that.
I mean, listen, and again, I totally agree. It is also like one thing that I saw that was interesting, because I'm sure that we're not the only ones having this conversation. The problem is that not enough of us is having the conversation and bringing it forth. But one thing I saw that was cool, because this was a conversation that was happening once certain artists got to a certain age and started dying super young. The question became that, hey, a lot of these artists have made millions of dollars and made millions and upon millions for the companies that they've been signed to. How come, what's up with health insurance? What happened to, people being able to have affordable health care? And I saw guys like Nas and the Rock the Bells Foundation work actively towards solving those problems, which is great. You know what I'm saying? So because I know that was a conversation for a while. So I love seeing that. And again, it's cool to have certain people who have a certain, I guess, face to it, put their thing. But I'm sure that probably started with people who don't have a name saying, hey, guys, like, this part of the game is off, So, yeah, I think that is something to really not just talk about, because, Black people, man, unfortunately, we're very good at talking about what we need to talk about in our soapboxes, but never really put any real intention or action towards it. But it'd be something to very much investigate, and it just needs to get started. Listen, I've been part of a lot of things that kind of started hot and fizzled off. I like to think, but thankfully, like, even this podcast is not one of those things, because again, the cool thing about being 9 episodes in, going on 11 and 12 by the end of the year, is the fact that we probably had maybe, 6 or 7 conversations dealing with, hey, why don't we start? And we didn't really have anything. To a large extent, we still don't have a lot of stuff, but it was just a matter of just throwing the water, the anchor out into the water, and like docking ship and being like, hey, we're planted here, we're gonna get started. All right, we're starting today. Ari was like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, I'm not ready to start today."
Just
But
doing
that
it.
was a whole day conversation. A whole. She was fasting, y'all. She didn't know what day it was, but whatever. My point is that we got started, and yeah, it's not perfect, but what's even more imperfect is just not starting at all. So long story less long is just, sometimes you just gotta, if you believe in it enough, if it affects you that enough, start somewhere. Just get
Absolutely.
started.
Just get started. And the thing is not to compare, because I had to go through the journey of my life, owning 2 six-figure companies, going through the craziest betrayals of business, going through the craziest betrayals of just life in general that anyone can attest to. If I sat here and compared myself, I wouldn't think I was anyone.
Right.
I would think like, well, what are the odds? What are the chances? What you do instead is just what Kendrick Lamar said. You put your head down and you work.
Right.
You just put your head down and work. And as long as you're doing the work, I would never have become a life coach if I didn't believe that people's biggest enemy is themselves. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you're going for. You have to know the game, the aim and the goal. And you can't be distracted. You can't be distracted from it. You got to go heavy. You got to go hard, and you got to go now. If you're afraid to jump, you're going to be afraid to jump until you're 85.
Right.
Jump and trust, especially if you are of faith. Jump and trust, because that's the only thing that got you here so far. So I'm speaking as a woman who practices what she preaches. There is a fight to be had. Whoever is going to do that fight, whoever is going to be the warrior to go ahead and do that, I don't know if they have come. I know that Kendrick opened the door. I know Kendrick has blatantly said that he is not enough to do this alone. I don't know if people are really taking it as a call of arms as what they should, but he has blatantly said that there's not enough and he's not enough. Again, I've been a part of protests. It would be to me if every hip hop artist just started marching in the street and be like, you know what, Kendrick, you're not alone. Like, if everyone just went to Compton on a flight, it was like, you're not alone, we here with you. And they're like, where they coming from? Oh, they came from Brooklyn, they came from Staten Island, they came from Long Island. Like, it would be that massive. And I think that is what Kendrick is basically saying. So he opened the door, but as like you said, as Black people, we rely too much on one figure. When we already know what they do to our figureheads, they shoot them in the street. We're dealing with a country where they shoot their own presidents, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, there's no way Kendrick could do it alone. If he really is an op, I pray on Kendrick every day. Because if he really is an op, he will go down. But how many Kendrick, I don't want to call them Kendrick Juniors, but how many people alongside Kendrick, if you shoot Kendrick, the message and the spirit doesn't go away. So it's having people who have that spirit, and I'm talking to whoever needs to hear this. Whoever has that spirit, whoever has that unction to be like, you know what, I've been sitting on this for so long. Yo, bump Spotify. Let me go to Bandcamp. Let me get the collective together, because again, how many people are doing nonprofit to where you can make these millions of dollars? Go to the schools, go to the grants, go to the colleges, there's so much money. There's so much money that the only reason why I think that they play artists against each other is because that's the only way they rob y'all. So in that being said, whoever this is calling to, just move. Don't worry. Again, you are prayed after. This is the Most High's time. They call this the year of exposure, and everything is being exposed. Just move and trust that if it's your calling, God got you.
Right.
And I look forward to what that makes the industry look like. The industry is going to have to reform. We go through reformations all the time in human history, but we're at the cusp of it being broken down. And if me and you talk about anything, it's about the cycles and how we get destroyed to get rebuilt. That is humanity in its entirety. That's Adam and Eve in their cycles in entirety. He flooded the whole earth just for another generation of humans to come out. Right. We move in cycles. So you just have to trust that this cycle will be better than the last cycle. And this is what music is facing right now. We're facing the destruction of a cycle to just see what the new cycle looks like. So I'm optimistic about it. I'm looking for that collective. I'm looking for that group that's going to take the reins and be like, okay, UMG really tripping. And UMG owns 80% of all the world's music. They own music that me and you have never heard of or don't even think there's a genre of.
Right.
And they own all of it. And they basically are sitting there again. I've been around these people to where they laugh. They laugh at the illusion they gave over everyone else that gives them power. Not knowing or not even caring that the reason why they have this power is because people on the bottom allow them to have it. They allow them.
My younger brother who's in the chat, shout out to Damien in the building. My man saying how, it's definitely a tough time in hip hop, in life in general. That's a fact. Yeah, for sure. And it would be in our best interest to try and we use whatever power that we have.
This is how revolution can start. Everyone is living a tough life. So now we go to the people who don't have it so tough and be like, how don't you have it tough? If everyone else have it tough, how don't you have it tough? And then when you see $23 billion in profit, you wonder why they don't have it tough. They don't have it tough because they sit above money. They don't have it tough because they sitting above looking down on like these peasants. But we allow you to be that. If it wasn't for us working and grinding, you would not be there. And that's how a revolution starts. We already had a revolution. United States was founded on the revolution against England. Right. Then we had a civil war here. And we live off the cusp of the Civil War. We live off of the revolution that our ancestors made to make us free. So the music industry, or just life in general, it's going to go through another cycle where people are going to revolt. The middle class is completely destroyed. Artists fall into that fight as well. Wealth gap and disparity is the biggest it's ever been in a long time. So guess what happens? The poor, like it's always been, the poor start to revolt against the rich. Always.
Always.
It always happens like that. So I look forward to it. I look forward to being a part of it. I look forward to being on God's winning side. Because like Kat said, it's God's side and the other side.
Yes.
And we ain't worried about what you're doing on the other side. So.
Man. So with that being said, speaking of being on the right side of justice. You got Drake going, talking his talk, trying to make things happen, shaking things up, even if it's for his own gain.
Who would have thought Drake? Go ahead, Drake. Power to Drake.
Absolutely. And then you got, the whole Drake, no, not Jake, I'm sorry, the Jay-Z Diddy situation. And
Jay-Z and Drake is Jake.
Yeah, Jake and Jake. Yeah, then you have the whole Jay-Z Diddy situation and one Tony Buzbee, right? So again, we're talking about the great deprogramming. The one thing that's really come up this year, and I think we got very much signaling from Cat Williams when he appeared on the Club Shay Shay podcast, that a lot of idols are going to be coming down, a lot of truths are going to be coming out, a lot of people are going to be exposed. I think when the Bill Cosby thing happened, I think we got hints of what was to come. When the Me Too movement started happening, I think we got hints to what was to come. And now we are here, right? But we've had a recent turn of events, if you want to call it that. So we all know about the Diddy situation. We don't have to rehash it too much. Right now, he is in a Brooklyn prison, awaiting trial, which I think is supposed to start somewhere between March or May, if I'm not mistaken, for a multitude of crimes, not the least of which being sex trafficking. I mean, so many.
Sex trafficking for censorship purposes. Trafficking.
Trafficking. Right. So, with that being said, Jay-Z recently came up in the conversation. Now, Jay-Z's been this white whale that's been circling along for a while, as far as people thinking that who is going to be the person next after Diddy that's going to be going down or is going to be accused, whichever side of the fence you're on. There's some people who are saying, well, we know Jay-Z is blah, blah, blah. He's got to go down. And then there's another side of people that's like, yo, why are we trying to eliminate every black icon that has made something of themselves? Why are they targets all of a sudden? So that's been a narrative. So Jay-Z recently got accused of sleeping. Well, in unethical practices with someone underage. Let's just say that to clean it up. And apparently that's something that apparently happened after a Video Music Award show at an after party. He was involved. Diddy was involved. There was another celebrity in the room who was female who was never named. And again, Diddy and Jay-Z's names have recently been tied together, but this has been the most concrete accusation thus far. And once those charges came out, Jay-Z flatly denied it through a statement, pretty much saying that, hey, you're not getting one red penny from me. Hey, if this person was really attacked in this way, how come these are civil and not criminal? And then also he mentioned the fact that, listen, you pretty much in essence picked the wrong one, and you're going to see what type of person I am, right? So there's been this back and forth between Tony Buzbee and Jay-Z and Roc Nation in general. Now, I have a funny statement about Roc Nation in a second, but I want to get to the latest thing that's happened, because now there's news about Tony Buzbee being accused of things that he has no business doing and shouldn't be doing, unethical practices. So Diddy's accuser's attorney, Tony Buzbee, has been accused of unethical legal conduct by a former client. In an article in USA Today, it says that the attorney leading several high-profile lawsuits against Sean Diddy Combs is facing additional allegations of misconduct amid his various legal battles. A former client of Tony Buzbee, a woman identified anonymously as Jane Doe, is accusing the Texas-based lawyer of committing various abuses during his time as her divorce attorney. According to court documents obtained by USA Today on Thursday, these alleged offenses include legal malpractice, assault, and fraud, amongst other charges. Buzbee slammed the lawsuit in an email statement to USA Today, calling the complaint's allegations purely false. Regarding her divorce proceeding, Doe alleges that she has been deprived of an adequate settlement reward due to Buzbee's unethical conduct, claiming he neglected his client's legal rights in her divorce proceedings to protect himself. Let me see, I got one other part. Yes, the lawsuit comes a month after Buzbee was sued by a high-profile male celebrity who was later revealed to be rapper Jay-Z for alleged extortion. In an email statement to the USA Today at the time, Buzbee called the Roc Nation founder's complaint an aggressive attempt to intimidate or silence me and ultimately my clients. That's where we're at. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot going on. Now, whoa, I'm losing my voice. I need to drink some water over here.
Like the tea, sir.
Yeah, probably need tea. Okay, I'm back. So, I want to say something about Roc Nation too. So I was
Did you check your battery life before you go?
Yeah, it's 50%. I'm about to hook it up now. So Roc Nation, man. Roc Nation is becoming this thing where talk about, it's like Candyman. It's like you talk about Roc Nation too much, it's gonna be bad for you, right? Case in point, thanks to Ari. Ari's a big fan of Piers Morgan's Uncensored. And in a recent episode, well, I don't know if it's recent anymore, but it's recent enough. Time is just small these days. Piers Morgan had Jaguar Wright, a former vocalist, who is been calling out Jay-Z for years, calling out Diddy for years, calling out the whole industry for years. And, you know, often dismissed as just some disgruntled, insane conspiracy theorist. She's been in the YouTube underground talking her talk, but she found herself on Piers Morgan's show, and she said some very damaging, inflammatory things. Well, maybe not inflammatory, but at least inflammatory in the eyes of certain people, things that concern Jay-Z, to the point that not even maybe 24 hours later, Pierce Morgan had to issue an apology because the good people at Rock Nation came knocking, and we was like, I know your show is called Pierce Morgan's Uncensored, but we're not gonna have that, right? No, we're not doing that. And so on the show called Uncensored, Pierce Morgan had to take his episode down and censor it, go against his own brand. Like, yeah, we can't air that. And then, as I bring this part to the close, I bring Ari in. I just happened to be on Academics live stream, and he was talking about the case because he's been following the case as well and talks a lot about it. One thing I gotta give Academics when I see his post, when it comes, because usually we know Academics for a lot of ratchet stuff and promoting a lot of ratchet stuff, you know, just for clicks. But he takes a lot of interest in like events like he was covering the Luigi case and putting the documents together, and he's been covering these cases, and it's this type of thing where it's just like, I'd like to see more of this, Academics. This is good. It's not bad. But he even said that, hey, I'm here to, he got on his stream and he said, yo, I want to issue a formal apology to Jay-Z. I'm like, what? And he pretty much apologized. Like, hey, I apologize for anything I ever said about Jay-Z, Rock Nation, I'm not going to apologize to Memphis Bleak. He made it very clear that he never wants to apologize to Memphis Bleak. But everybody else, he apologized to the kids, Rumi, Stir, Blue. He apologized to everybody. And he pretty much brought up the statement that went against Tony Buzbee. And he's, you know, so long story less long, Rock Nation has now become the boogeyman, or the boogeymen of sorts. Like Jay-Z is just like, yo, no. It's like, don't talk about me, don't talk about Beyonce, don't talk about none of my people, or else we're going to send the lawyers after you, and it's going to be a bad day for you. And now we have this. And Tony himself is probably thinking, yo, this is all a conspiracy to bring me down because I'm trying to bring them down. So, Ari, what are your thoughts?
Well, to beginning point, I don't care if you black, white, or Asian. Mm-hmm. If you evil, going down. Yeah. So that's just where I stand. I don't put my people as some type of exception to God's rule. If our people got to where they are I understand it. I understand, like, oh, we're going to follow the way of our conquerors and we're going to become just as powerful doing their game. Mm-hmm. It's like, I get it, but I feel a shift happening to where these people could, I don't believe in the exception to the rule. So I don't know how Jay-Z got his money. I don't know how Rock Nation put this stuff in a foothold, but at the end of the day, if you stand on corruption, you deserve to go down. And I don't put, I put our people, and it doesn't mean that I don't think racism exists. I do know that racism exists. It's a mindset. Mm-hmm. It was law. It was illegal for us to have certain rights as people. Mm-hmm. The same way it was illegal for women to have rights as people. So as we now have laws that don't back that, getting rid of the mindset is a little harder to do. Yeah. But even in all that being said, I don't know where the lawsuit's going. It's been really messy with this back and forth that they've been doing. You know, Buzbee did the first lawsuit with his client that, from what I read, did not even want money from Jay-Z. So that was a lie that he said on her. She actually said she wanted confidential mediation, meaning that she just wanted to talk to him. So that was one thing. So she never wanted money. The second thing I heard was that Jay-Z started basically doing the same tactics that P. Diddy does, which was basically intimidating witnesses, stopping people from coming out and talking about it. And then he also reached out to the client and was basically threatening her and all this other type of stuff. Allegedly. Buzbee also came out. Yeah, allegedly. But no, not allegedly, because Buzbee said this. So I'm going off of what he said, and he's a lawyer. So Buzbee came out in a statement saying that Jay-Z did try to intimidate his witness and his client. Mm-hmm. He did basically pay people to come after her or him or whoever the client is, but I'm guessing it's a her. And basically, again, try to stop her from testifying. He also came and started to pay ex-client of Buzbee's firm to make up stories about him to discredit him. So that's Jay-Z's side. On Buzbee's side, I've heard that he has a very big knack for wanting to take on black celebrities. He has like basically like a hard on, for lack of a better phrase, of just getting black celebrities to fall.
Interesting.
I had yet to verify this, but that's what I've heard. Okay. But I do not believe that it's just black people getting taken down. I do believe that. Yeah, baby, go ahead. It's in the room. I do believe that there is just a tiredness of people wanting corruption at the top.
Yeah.
I think there is a huge frequency going on and being heightened for justice that people are just tapping into and just wanting things to be fair, wanting things to be right, rectifying the wrongs of the past. And I think Jay-Z and Buzbee fall into that. If Buzbee is a racist, then obviously that's not fair to use your law degree to just go after black people. You should be going after everybody who breaks the law.
Right.
But in Jay-Z's point as well, yes, you are one of our moguls. Yes, you are one of the biggest people to ever come out of the hip hop space, and hip hop is young, right, compared to every other genre. But if you got there off the backs of doing criminal things, then you also cannot be our face. Like, it'd be actually kind of embarrassing to have you as our face. Right. To be like, oh yeah, you know, like, who's Jay-Z? Oh, he's a businessman. Well, how did he get his millions? By drug dealing to children. Like, it's just like that. Like, we don't want that to be the face anymore, right? So it's like, you can gracefully retire. You and Beyonce have enough money. So I don't know if she even helped you do these things, or if she was a victim to you as you did these things. Like, I don't know the dynamics. But even in that brand, it's like, you guys have all the means to retire from the industry and let someone else do it, unless you really don't want to give up that power hold of that.
Right.
Yeah. So he said, Henry said that, can something be said about Tony Buzbee only going after black athletes? So yeah, so I was touching on that before. I haven't verified that. He said that he brought down Deshaun Watson.
I didn't know that. I mean, he was involved in that case? Okay.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what I said. There's 3 people right now, and people are forgetting this. P. Diddy and Jay-Z are not the biggest people going off right now. It's the Epstein list. The Epstein list is, well, by leagues, way more damaging. If it ever gets released, when it gets released, I'm going to pray when it gets released. It's way more damaging to anything we can possibly think of. Politicians, governments going down, governments going into anarchy, because that, he partied with politicians. Excuse me. My kids are coming in. 1 second. But JJ, comment on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, so, I didn't realize that Deshaun Watson was, and that's a weird case in itself. I didn't realize that Tony Buzbee has been involved in all these high-profile cases that mainly deal with black celebrities. I didn't know that was the case. The one thing I will say before Ari comes back in, because according to what she just said, these cases, particularly this Jay-Z accusation, has been so messy, has been so wild, because I feel like the way that Jay-Z dealt with this accusation is a little bit different to how Diddy dealt with his accusation. Because when Diddy, now there's been talk about Diddy being off for years, right? And things that were circling around him in terms of criminal acts, right? But the firestorm really started with Cassie sending that civil suit. And then, you know, he's settling that quickly. And then he makes a post on Instagram saying, I would never harm a person or a woman this way. And then video pops out conveniently of Puffy Diddy beating Cassie half to death. And then we all know where that ended up, right? Jay-Z has been largely on the offensive, like straight out the gate. Like, look, I'm not even going to let this breathe for a good 24 hours before I say something. And so I'm saying what I got to say right here and now, whether he's using rightful tactics, nefarious tactics, underhanded tactics, whatever tactics he's doing. Like, the guy just was like, nah, you're not bringing my name up. You won't catch a how they say in the West Coast, you're going to catch a DP. You're going to catch a discipline for that. So that's what's going to happen. And he's been pretty consistent this far. But yeah, I don't know what Tony Buzbee's situation is with a lot of high-profile athletes or black celebrities in general. But going back to Ari's point, you know, there's a hierarchy, rather, that's the proper pronunciation, a hierarchy that's existing that is the bigger fish that needs to be fried. That's, according to Ari again, can literally topple down complete civilizations and organizations of the highest level, you know? And I feel like stuff like Diddy, even stuff like Jay, because let's call a spade. Once you hit a certain tax bracket, at some point there's communal relationships at some point. When you get into the 100 millions, you can pretty much damn near talk to anybody or party with anybody or be on somebody's yacht or somebody's party or somebody's island. So, you know, yeah. But Ari, continue. Take it away.
Oh, no, I loved your point, too. Again, I can't speak much on Tony being, I guess it would be a person who goes after black clients, which would be racist in mindset, of course. But to your point about the bigger fish in the hierarchy of what we're going after, there's definitely, again, Epstein is just on a whole nother level. Yeah, and they've been fighting that list for a while. I think that P. Diddy and Jay-Z fall into that cusp. But when I think about it, it's just P. Diddy and Jay-Z are just entertainment. They're just the entertainment figureheads. Epstein, I know to be more dangerous because no one knew about him. But this dude was so powerful that he partied with leaders of governments and senators and prime ministers and ministers of finance and agriculture. Like we're talking about literal country figureheads, right? So when I look at Jay-Z and P. Diddy, yes, to black people, it's a hit. But if we're going to hit racism, Epstein is a way bigger white dude than P. Diddy and Jay-Z are big black dudes, right? Like they're not even the richest black people we have. Yeah. P. Diddy and Jay-Z are not the richest ones we have. We're not talking about, what's his name, Robert Smith, who's like the private equity funder of whatever thing is in New York. He's one of the richest guys. We're not talking about the black guy from Africa who just did the oil wells and stuff like that. He got like a couple $100 billion behind him. They're not even the richest people. Right. They're just the ones we see the most, right? But when we talk about Epstein, we talk about someone who is literally like in that same category of being able to move an economy. The people he's with can cripple economies. And they, again, conspiracy hat here, but I believe they killed him in prison. I don't believe he committed suicide in prison. And that just goes to show how powerful he is, because if P. Diddy was that powerful, why didn't someone off him yet? We've seen these people off JFK. We see them try to off Trump. I believe that we've seen them off Epstein, but they had P. Diddy chilling and Jay-Z chilling. Didn't Biggie say you not nobody until someone tried to kill you? And then we have a government that literally does that. So to a point, it's just, no, I think Epstein is the bigger fish. I think that these are just I think these are distractions. Yes, distractions that need to happen, because at the end of the day, we don't want anyone evil heading this. And again, this has to happen for hip hop and entertainment to have a vacuum to where people who really do mean God's work and mean good for society to come in and take that over. Right. You have to take away the people who are in the throne. You have to take them off, because the throne still sits there. It's just who's going to sit on it, right? No, the throne's there. So yeah, but Epstein for sure is the one that I'm thinking is, and they're doing very good burying it. But I think what Trump's administration has done is that it keeps that relevant. Like everyone's ready for when he gets inaugurated. Like, yo, drop the list. We want to see who's on the list. Drop it so that we can start to persecute them, right? For all this child trafficking, for all this other stuff. And these are, again, people that we're not even talking about. Yeah, P. Diddy tape is like... You know, but it's just like, no, like you involved in the ring, like the ring centers around you. How about the ring that's just Central America? What about the ringleaders that do it all in Central America? What about all the ring that does it all in Ghana and Nigeria? Like those are the people we going after. That's the people that I want to know. I want to be like, yo, this is an international child ring. This is an international X ring, we need to kill that. We need to destroy that. So,
No,
yeah,
I
I
agree.
think that's what FSM does.
And I think that in addition to your point, I think that a lot of what the feeling is, particularly within the Black and Brown community, internationally, obviously, because Diddy and Jay-Z are international stars at this point. But particularly with the Black and Brown community, I think that there's so much things from generational slavery onwards that's still affecting us in the sense of we don't trust anything and everything. A lot of us are aspirational. We look at human beings who have achieved certain things and covet them and laud them and idolize them because of the aspirational things that they've achieved, because it's like, hey, if this person who came from a certain neighborhood was able to make it here, maybe I can do it too. Yeah. Or it feels like a validation in the sense of we have countless white celebrities, billionaires, movers and shakers, world changers, whatever the case may be. So we're grateful for an Oprah. We're grateful. And of course, we know that there's Black billionaires that no one's ever heard of because of the sectors that they belong in. Yes. But, for the ones that we can easily identify, we cherish them, we laud them, we covet them, because you just want to see it, yeah. and it's just like, man, like we love seeing Jay-Z and Beyonce for what that could mean in an aspirational sense. What Diddy did in an aspirational sense, Diddy lost his marquee artist and still it could have been over and he still went on, and countless others that we can name. And then there's the thing of, hey, once these people and these figures start being attacked, is it us? Is it our own jealousy? And we jump into the comment sections and we pray for their downfall, according to BIG. And it's just like, what does that say about us? Do we celebrate them, or do we celebrate them to lift them up and then bring them down? What does that say about us as people and mentality? And there's all these conversations happening. But at the end of the day, because again, this is about burning your idols and understanding what deprogramming really looks like. As much as we are aspirational, as much as we want to see people that look like us succeed and thrive and earn certain levels of justice that sometimes is not always afforded to us, certain things are right, certain things are wrong. And I don't care what it is. R. Kelly has made songs I love, sang, partied to, adore. But for the stuff I've witnessed and heard about, the dude doesn't need to come out of prison ever. Because he did what he did. And that could have been any of our family members being affected. And it doesn't have to be any of our family members affected because we're humans. It's like, yo, I don't care how brilliant of an artist you are. Apparently, you or the people around you didn't recognize enough that there's something going on with you that is potentially harming other people. And on top of that, you threw money at it. And therefore, let this live for years. It has to stop. And at the end of the day, if that is Diddy, it has to stop. Hey, I'll probably still play It's All About the Benjamins, but you, sir, you got to stop. Jay-Z, for me, is a top 5 MC of all time, bar none, for me personally. Beyonce, I've waxed poetic about her last 3 albums. Again, I haven't really heard Cowboy Carter like that, but the ones before, love her work, man. Best album she's ever produced. But Beyonce, Knowles Carter, or Carter Knowles, however you say it, if you did some craziness, it sucks, but sis, it just gotta be what it is. It just is what it is. There's enough artists in the world. There's tons of artists. I'm an artist myself. So again, hey, if we can't have enough, if there's enough Beyonce, there's somebody else. Somebody will carry on where Beyonce left off. That's just the cycle of life. So yeah. So
And to your point, no, that was a brilliant point. And to that, I would like to add that again, like you said, not only cycles, but I'm happy to be alive and I'm blessed to be alive in this era because R. Kelly didn't go down in the era to where he was doing all his madness. He went down when in this era. He went down where it's just like, hey, listen, we don't care about how much music you produced. You touched kids. You got to go to jail. Because remember, if you remember the whole story about R. Kelly, I mean, I remember hearing the rumors growing up. People knew what he was doing. There was such an idolization about our figures and people who were breaking out in the industry that we, as a community, basically protected them. We protected them. I remember hearing him proudly say that he was a Pied Piper, and I'm sitting here learning the story from school. I'm just like, well, a Pied Piper is a man who lures in children and basically leads them to death or something like that. And I'm just like, who like proudly boasts that, right? Like, it's just like, who proudly says that they're the Pied Piper on every song that he's talking about?
Ari, we allowed him to hide in plain sight. It's pretty much
because it was our idolization of not having anything, and we allowed. And this is the thing about Jay-Z, and I'll take his quote. He said, "I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman." But guess what? You're now in the era where people can learn business. You're not an anomaly anymore. You were an anomaly back then. But there's people richer than you. There's people richer than you that we don't even know of. And they're black. They're claiming as black as what black can be. So even when you're saying you're a businessman, it's like now we can hold you to a different standard because now you're not the only richest guy we know. How did that dude get his billions and be ethical about it? And you don't, or you're not. That means we're now the playing field. We can still have our idols, but it's who we're giving the attention to, or it's going back to what we said before, it's who they're putting the attention on.
Right.
They're allowing us to look at these people, making it seem like this is what they want. This is the only thing we can aspire to be. Or we can only aspire to be this mogul that came into the music space. But every time you hear about some rumor about Jay-Z, it's him doing the most trifling thing. And it's just like, why? Why wasn't Tidal made? You've been in this music industry for 30 years, 40 years. Since when you was a teenager, I would hope, because you and Beyonce started dating when you was 30 and 19. And we're not even going to go into how weird that was. We're not even going to go into that. But again, 18 is legal age. So we're not even going to touch on that because, again, lawsuit, whatever, try to sue us. I don't got nothing. But anyway, so even in that, you've been in this industry for so many decades and you're now thinking about unionizing and then you don't stand on it. I told you, I would not trust him with a 5-foot pole with what he's trying to do for music, because anything he could have done for music, he could have been done, unless he's just a highly paid slave, which they have a whole book about. They have a whole book about the highly paid slaves of Hollywood and of sports and of all the people who, Nick Cannon was one of them, right? Nick Cannon got taken down just by a statement. He had his assets frozen. He couldn't access his bank accounts. He couldn't get a paycheck, and he had to go on an apology tour like Eminem to every Jewish rabbi, I think, in the country, right? So it's that thing of the people we idolize. Are they as powerful as what we think that we are, or are they that we think they are? Are they pushing the narrative that we'll never be like them? But at the end of the day, it's like, who will want to be like you? If that's the way I found out you got your money and your power in the first place, no one should covet it. And if it's just money you're going after, I've seen millions of millionaires who go after money and get money. But if you're asking a millionaire to be ethical, no. If you're asking a millionaire to be a social advocate, no. If you're asking a millionaire to be a truth in a light for justice, no, because they put money above everything else. And that's where Jay-Z's honesty needs to be something that Black people admit. He always put money before everything. So for you to sit here now and expect him to change coat, or to be like, well, Jay-Z, what you going to do and come back to what should I be expecting you to do? You got there by loving money. You got there by loving money before anything else. He hasn't denounced the Grammy. He hasn't denounced the Grammy, but he's sitting here talking about how he boycott Grammys. He hasn't denounced the Grammy. None of his family has denounced the Grammys. But then sitting here talking about Grammys don't mean anything. Okay, fine, cool. You try to make Tidal, which is the biggest thing right now. Again, if artists had a union, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Drake and Kendrick Ware, we wouldn't even be having that, and you've been in the industry for decades. You know why he wouldn't start a union? Because a union is his conflict of interest. You really think he could have freaking Grammys and them as partners, knowing that he's going against Spotify and UMG? to unionize artists, he would get dropped as a partner immediately. And that's just knowing business interests. These people are partners. They shake hands at the end of the day. And he's not trying to lose a check. He's a businessman. He ain't trying to lose a check over doing some social advocacy.
Yeah.
You
got to know and understand
I think the
who
blackest
you are and what you
thing Jay-Z ever did was wear locks. I think that's the blackest thing he ever did, is that he grew out his locks for real.
Yo, I got a question from our boy, your guy. He asked, do people really want to see... So he had a question. It was actually a great question. He said, do people really want to see this list? And how will some react when their so-called idols are on it? I have a very quick answer to that question. Part of me says they want to see who they want to see on the list. To explain that better, it's just like they don't want to see their favorites on that list.
Yeah. I'll
say that, because the minute they'll see their favorites, like let's just say Jay-Z and Beyonce is on the list, the black community isn't going to celebrate that. They're not going to be like, yeah, you do it. I mean, they'll be split. There'll be a lot of people who will be like, hell no. And a lot of people will be like, yeah. And to be honest, even for either side, I don't even know if they're going to be saying those things for the right reasons. Because in the sense of, and at that point, it doesn't really matter, because if you're on that list, you're done regardless. But I know there's people, it's like, it goes back to what I was saying. There's people who really don't want justice. They just want to hate, right? They just want to see misery loves company. It's like a lot of people that speaking against these celebrities, half of them don't even really care that much. They just want to be like, again, misery loves company. But it's a mute point to the bigger bottom line that at the end of the day, if you're caught on there, you got to go down, But as far to just to answer your question, Henry, like, people don't really care either way, is what I'm saying, or they care conveniently. They have selective outrage. That's what I'm looking for. There'll be selective outrage. Yeah,
I agree with that. I definitely agree. Will be a selective outrage to it. I definitely think that, like you said, if people don't like who's on the list, it's going to be for a myriad of reasons. But at the end of the day, if you're on the list, you got to go down. I think it's as simple as that, whether you like who's on the list or not. I think that gives a little power to it, to where, corruption happens in that. There's people who are going to put out fake lists. AI exists. There's going to be people who try to edit it and cross out names and do a whole bunch of other stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to hope for justice too. Justice is also a hope. It's not saying we have it right all the time. It's not even saying we have it right now. But it's a hope that, just like humans, we get better as it goes on. And we get better in due process. We get better in convictions. We get better in prosecutions. And if you're on that list, I heard that, I heard that there's a lot of people that was going on and off the island, but you have to even think about that type of access, that you have a jet. Someone go and pick you up in a jet to fly out there. Like, you're talking about a very select group of people. Because not everyone get offered to go on a private jet to go to an island and then pit stop there, by the way. By the time you're going from one business meeting in the east to coming back to the west, you're just stopping by to say hello. That's a very select group of people that's doing that.
That's a different kind of life, man. Quick sample fact for the people out there, man. I just recognized, or rather learned earlier today or yesterday, whatever day it was, that, obviously the highest profile cases that's been happening lately has been the Diddy case. And of course, the Luigi guy whose last name I can't think of or pronounce. I know it starts with an M. I just don't want to mispronounce the word. But his first name is Luigi. Luigi, the young man who shot the CEO of United Healthcare. Diddy and Luigi are in the same prison, the same Brooklyn prison, awaiting trial. And another interesting fact is that they are separately being represented by a husband and wife lawyer team. So the husband is representing Diddy, and the wife is representing Luigi, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, man, like, you know, I was joking with Ari earlier, like, could you imagine those conversations at lunch or the lack thereof? Because I can only imagine
the silence of
this
pass
type
of
of,
salt, and then someone tapping into their table like, is salt an acronym? Is salt code for your client? I have your client in another prison cell awaiting your interview, or whatever the case may be. You know, it can get
can you
really.
imagine the book they're gonna write after it's all said and done? It's like, we're the husband and wife team
That took down
that
a lot of people, man, or just
right,
advocated for, and it's just that type of resume.
right.
Oof.
That type of resume, how that helped their or hurt their relationship dynamic as a married couple. I mean, could you imagine the stress? Of course, they're getting money. You know, they're getting money, right? But hey, not even money can alleviate the stress and the pressure and the time consumption that comes with being that high profile, high demand, high pressurized situations. Like, that's they need to write a book. They need to have a 60 minutes interview to talk about their relationship dynamic. But you gotta love a couple that can get money together and do these world changing things together. I think about couples who could do that. I know of one couple who could have done that, but
before you segue, I do see that Babe asked another question, and just to pivot back to another point, Jay-Z and Beyonce being one of those couples. I know a lot of people go to like her Super Bowl performance where she pulled out all the women, right? And she did that whole Black Panther salute. This is what I'm talking about. Showmanship is great.
Yeah.
Showmanship is great. The thing that I always get debated on is, what about the substance? So Black Panthers weren't just marching because they wanted white people to know that they were there. They were changing laws. They were basically fighting militant, like they were militant fighters. So they were sitting here saying, hey, listen, if you come into our neighborhoods one more time, we're going to shoot you ourselves. That's what they were doing. The marching for me is a little bit of, how do you say, pandering, race pandering, where it's just like, hey, listen, I learned about Black Panthers in school. If the United States was racist, they wouldn't even allow that in school, let alone public school. I learned about the Black Panthers. I learned about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I learned about Malcolm X. I learned about Marcus Garvey. I learned about Madam C.J. Walker. I learned about all these people and the greatness that we have in this country off the backs of them. I learned that. Why are Black people now stagnant? And every time I see Jay-Z or Beyonce do this performance thing, I just feel a little bit of cringe, where I'm just like, there's way more work to be done behind the scenes than you getting a Super Bowl check and then putting Black people on to get a check.
Oh, you're talking about the formation performance back in 2016.
Yeah, right. Which they said, oh, Beyonce's been going back into her Afrocentric roots more. I was like, yo, she's Black by look. I don't feel any type of way of Beyonce coming back to her Black heritage. If she didn't know that her whole life, then she tripping. But it's just like, I don't have any type of stake in her getting back to her identity. That's not the thing that we're fighting. If we're here, you have people of other races every day telling you who you are. By force. If you want to blonde your hair and if you want to bleach your skin and you walk down the street, people still calling you what they calling you regardless. So that is a identity issue. It's almost like we're glorifying her self-discovery and her trip back to the motherland, when I'm sitting here going, yo, as a Black woman and a single mom and all this other type of stuff, there's way more fights to be had in court. There's way more fights to be had of social justice. There's way more of a conversation, and you guys are put at such a pedestal to where you guys can make the difference behind the scenes. You guys don't have to be out here in the world or performing or doing whatever. You guys have all the means. You guys are shaking hands with the people who can change it.
Right.
For example, the whole Spotify thing. You would think that Jay-Z, I would hope Jay-Z has no ties. How can you have ties to someone who robs people so blindly? Unless you just a businessman, unless you just sitting here for the check. So if that's the case, fine. If that's the case, fine, be a business. But I do not expect for you to be the advocate for Black people before your business. That's foolish. Right. Did anyone ever ask how much Dr. Martin Luther King made being a civil rights leader? Did anyone ever ask how much Malcolm X made being a leader of the Black? No, because they basically said, oh, we get all our love from our community. When people really appreciate what you doing, they will donate their house. They will donate their car. They will donate whatever they have to donate for you to do your mission. No one ever
man,
looked up how rich Dr. Martin Luther King's net worth was because he wasn't about money. He wasn't about that. His fight was something bigger, right?
Yeah, Martin Luther King and those guys couldn't even afford proper security to keep themselves secure in their homes.
He had a whole army. I think in the just an interesting tidbit is nonviolence. They like to say Martin Luther King was. He had a whole armory in I think the Brooklyn. I think he had like the New York armory, or he had an armory like in one of his churches or something, ready to throw down if someone was to come to his house. So as much as not, he wasn't silly. Like he knows he's the number one hated man in the country. In fact, his daughter came out and said, "Stop saying you loved him so much when one of y'all killed him. Y'all didn't love my father. Y'all hated my father, but y'all really good at double speaking." So. Just going back to that point of I'm done with the showmanship. Black people feed on that way too much. Oh, well, look at them. They're another black family getting another award. But the awards is the problem, not the black people receiving it. The award show is the problem. You have to come at the Grammys. You have to come at the Oscars. You have to come like that. Oh, don't tell them that you're not great. Stop telling other black people that it don't matter when you aspire to those same awards you're saying don't matter. That doesn't make any sense. It's the master of doublespeak. That's what I learned that it was. It's called the master of double speaking. So while I'm accepting an award, I can also tell you that this award don't mean nothing. While I'm smiling and I'm waving at you and I'm pointing at you with it, like, hey, listen, don't you aspire for this because I'm telling you it's trash. How you doing?
While I insist that my daughter's on stage with me accepting the award. Yeah.
Yeah. While I'm holding the brunch.
Right.
So that's what I mean by the pandering thing. I think that they've done way too much pandering, but you know that's the way I feel about Tyler Perry. You know that's the way I feel about a lot of the people, 50 Cent. You know I feel a lot of way about a lot of the heads that we give, especially in the entertainment industry. But as we know, our cultural stereotype is that black people are the entertainers. We're the clowns of the world. People can look at us and get a laugh. People will look at us and get drama. People will look at us and be like, man, they lively. It's like we're like the jesters of the world. That's how the world treats us. But look at how we treat ourselves. Of course we're going to be the jesters. We don't take each other seriously. We have leaders that we give leader status to, and they haven't taken one political class. How? You just an entertainer. Sorry, Beyonce, as much as I love your music, I love Halo. You are just an entertainer. You are just an entertainer. LeBron James, as much as you can dunk and as much as I think is you're the GOAT, you're just a basketball player. You're nothing else. Stay there. It's nothing wrong with you staying there and dominating that because that's your history. Simone Biles, I love Simone Biles. I never see Simone Biles doing anything else but being a great gymnast, which is why I love her the most. She stays in her lane and she dominates it. If she has opinions about social issues, that's fine, but she's never going to sit here and say, hey, listen, I'm the best social advocate for this. I'm the best one that you better listen to me because I'm the one that everyone's giving all the attention to. She takes all her attention. She puts it right back to sports. Hey, listen, did you guys just see my last practice? Did you guys see my man play at the football game? Look at him being all hot. Like, she does the same thing, what she's supposed to do. She stays in her lane. So that's just my tidbit on the whole thing of, like, the pandering and Jay-Z and them just being at the heads but not really doing anything with it. And going back to what Babe asked about being canceled or punishment, I just think that if they're criminal, they should go to jail. I think being canceled is such a light punishment, especially when we've known to cancel people that we uncancel later. I feel like that's such a social punishment that don't really mean anything to me. If you are in the conversation to where you traffic kids, I don't think there should be anything less than a trial. I don't think there should be anything less of you going to jail in a waiting trial. And I don't know how long they're going to take for you to leave jail, but you should definitely at least, at bare minimum, receive a trial and a charge. Canceling on social media, like how those we talk about how Jay-Z and all of them are high figures. All the CEOs who got away, from what I looked like, they were Asian and white. The CEO of Nike who retired, he was as white as they come. Now, mind you, I could be wrong. He could be Russian or some type of Ukrainian, whatever he is. No, but he was definitely blonde hair, blue-eyed. So I'm just like, oh, he retired. He got away. That's the canceling that they give themselves. They have them retire and they have them go to some island somewhere to where no one could ever find them again. But they're well off. They don't ever have to be in the public eye again. And they give them a great retirement package. Then there was the Asian guy who left from, I don't even know what other company he was, but he looked Asian in feature. So yeah, I think the canceling is BS. I think canceling is one of those things where it's like, if someone says something unpopular that you don't agree with, cancel them. Canceling is just blocking to me on social media. But if you are a criminal, go to trial. If you're a criminal, get charged. Canceling is not the equivalent to putting someone in jail for doing crimes against humanity, at least. And child trafficking is a crime against all of humanity. It doesn't matter what race commits it. But that's just my thought on the question.
No, I get you. And definitely, like I said before in an earlier rant or earlier breakdown, doesn't matter if the person being victimized is a family member or not. If you're a human being, you can be empathetic to the fact that these people have been unjustifiably attacked, and justice should come in the right way. So, funny enough, Ari, you were talking about court gestures and us looking like clowns. I want to direct everybody's attention to something that apparently happened a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago. I'm just losing all tracks of time. But, we've been talking about idols and perception and how we look at people who seemingly have it together and what that could look like and how inspirational those things are. And then when you see it explode, not only is the explosion massive in terms of their dynamic, it becomes embarrassingly public and it looks crazy. It looks stupid. It looks out of control. And half the time you're wondering, why do we even know this information? And that's a wild thing to say in the age of social media that we're in. But, it's like, I notice I'm a person who catches secondhand embarrassment very quickly. And when you see certain things, it's just like, are you not embarrassed for yourself? Like, you can't be that angry, but I guess you can. So what I'm talking about, or I'm alluding to, has to do with two couples in particular. One happens to be pretty consistent and critically acclaimed lyricist Papoose and multi-platinum selling hip-hop artist Remy Ma. And then the other couple is another successful musical couple in Cardi B and Offset, formerly of Migos. Both couples have been married or are married currently. Both couples have kids. Both couples have had their impact on the Black and brown cultural landscape in hip-hop. And both have had crazy situations happen online that signal the disillusionment of their unions. So I'm going to start with Papoose and Remy first. I ain't going to stay too long in this. If you are online long enough, you know the story. One day, Remy Ma got up and chose violence at 5 a.m. when people are packing their kids and taking them to kindergarten, preschool, or whatever job you're trying to get to in that early of the morning, and said, hey, guess what I found? My husband slumped on the couch, knocked out, and his girlfriend texting him, talking about, hey, have you gotten home yet? Have you gotten home yet? How come you've not called me? And you should call me. Up to that point, it's weird because Remy Ma had now been suspected of cheating on her husband with a rapper that's part of her battle league, known as Chrome 23, namely Easy the Block Captain, right? Why is this so weird for a lot of people? Well, because Papoose and Remy Ma have been the symbol of Black love. They even had branding associated with that. Quick backstory, Remy Ma had a really crazy, incredible start to her hip-hop career until she shot at somebody that she had no business shooting at. Well, maybe she had business. She felt like she was stolen from and took it out on her in that way, which led her to a 6-year stint in prison. Papoose, who was seeing Remy at the time, continued to see her, be in a relationship with her, held her down, even got married while she was incarcerated. And it was a noble thing because, again, as hip-hop folklore has it, most men wouldn't do what Papoose did. Usually when men go away, women hold them down. Hey, I'm going away for 10 years. I'll be out. And ladies like, hey, I'll be there when you get out. It's like Gucci and Keisha Cole, right? Gucci went away for a while. Keisha said, not only am I going to be here, but I'm going to double the $3 million you gave me, and we're gonna run a business together. It's a perfect situation, right? But this was the inverse. So Papoose stayed loyal. Remy Ma came out. They were reunited. They got on Love and Hip Hop. They became the beacon of a stabilized marriage and a stabilized relationship within that chaos. Remy Ma went on to have even bigger success than she had before she went in. Papoose was the dutiful husband. It looked amazing. And we wanted to see that happen. We wanted to see it win. And then one day, a battle appeared on the net where Gucci Gotti was battling Easy, the black captain, in one of Remy's leagues. And Gucci said, hey, you got something going on with Remy Ma, who stood right there in the midst of it, which was jarring to say the least. It's like, wait, what is happening right here? Like that doesn't make sense. And then pictures started popping up of Remy Ma and Easy in matching outfits, having dinner together, appearing obviously on television, talking about the league. But by that time, the rumors were swirling. Meanwhile, Papoose kept his mouth shut. The only thing he did in terms of vocals was getting in his car and and firing off furious freestyles. He spoke nothing of the relationship until that fateful day when Remy Ma opened the can of worms, and it went crazy. Papoose was outed for dating or seeing the championship boxer Clarence Shields. Remy Ma started outing their business, even put Shields' actual phone number on the net. That's the part that people didn't miss. I saw that. It's like, wait, is her actual phone number on the net? That means I could call her right now. That's crazy. That's irresponsible. And then all the receipts started coming up. Remy Ma and Easy sharing a nice, cute little Christmas pose in front of a Christmas tree. Then more news came out about Papoose's bugging of the car to hear that his wife was indeed in a relationship with Easy, the black captain. Clarice Shields, threatening or talking about, hey, Remy Ma, I'm challenging you to a one-on-one boxing match. It has been a debacle upon debacles. And I feel tired at this point, even breaking this story down, because it's so long-winded and it's so layered. But my point is that this became public, and all I want to know is why. And you know what? Since I'm already here, I might as well wrap it up with Cardi and Offset, who stay arguing online, who stay breaking up and making back up online, who stay asking for booty calls after a divorce is filed online, where we see the most intimate and crude and wild of conversations online. And these guys are presumably our heroes. These are people that we idolize. These are people we want to be like. These are people that we look at as relationship goals, even in their toxicity and their dysfunction. And I just want to know why we get to see it. Right. And I think that's a perfect way to jump off the conversation. Ari, why do we get to see it? Well, Ari tuned off for a second, and I'm sure I know why. But I just want to say this before Ari gets back in here. I think the reason why a lot of these conversations happen on the net, in particular, is because celebrities are slaves to the court of public opinion. You would think conversations like this would strictly stay private, but that's the dichotomy of being a celebrity. When you do dirt as a celebrity, it's not just in-house business anymore, it's the world's business. Because as a public figure, that's the key word, you're public. So publicly, we know that you're married. Publicly, we have seen your husband. We have seen your wife. Publicly, you guys have shared details about your life, how y'all got together, how y'all fell for each other, the good times, the bad times, till death do us. We know you as a public figure. So, with that being said, when you're a public figure, anything you do that's out of the ordinance of what people perceive you as, you now have to defend and give an explanation for. And if your hand is caught in the cookie jar one too many times, it's a PR nightmare, right? Because you're going against your brand. So it's not just a marriage you're protecting anymore, it's a brand, right? Papoose and Remy Ma weren't just a married couple, they were a brand. They branded everything, even their love, which is weird to say, but it is what it is. So anything that looks crazy and opposition of the brand, you got to give an account for. Now, that's the other part of the thing that's funny, because as human beings, we don't like to take accountability. Nobody wants to look bad. You could have done the worst thing ever. No one likes to look bad because, again, you're dealing with public perception. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to make the other party look bad. Never mind you may have caused this. Never mind you may have contributed to what's happening. We got to make the other person look bad. Nobody says sorry. Nobody says, yes, hey, my husband does have a girlfriend because, yes, I was mainly responsible for the dissolution of our marriage, right? Hey, he's not perfect, but I'm responsible. I caused this. Hey, I do want to be in a relationship with my wife, the mother of my kids, but I like women too much. I'm out here. Anybody that gives me an ounce of tail, I'm going after. You know what I'm saying? No artist does that. Because again, they're trying to protect how they look and how they perceive to the world. When we all know you're toxic. We all know it's like, dude, you're not faithful. Your music doesn't even say that you're faithful. Why even try to explain it to us? You look crazy. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of why we get to see a lot of these scenarios happen in real time on the net. Like, it's weird to me. You're literally seeing a couple argue on at real time on the net, and we all get our popcorn and watch. And that's crazy. But again, we're trying to control the narrative because our own existence and our money is based on public perception. If I look bad, that means I'm losing a check. That means I'm losing an opportunity. That means, hey, the facade I've been pumping to you guys for the longest looks false. And that means I get canceled. That means my next single that I drop isn't going to do well because you're a fraud. You know, I could go on and on. But I think that's a large part of why people do this. But I think a lot of this could be actually dissipated a bit or handled a bit better. Not saying there's never going to be fallout, but if people took accountability, like real accountability, the fire wouldn't be as big as people allow it to become. So, I feel like I made you think with that one.
No, I was just listening. I was dissecting and I was digesting everything that you were saying because there were just a couple points while you were talking that I do not only agree with, but it's a shame and it's disappointing. I don't think all humans don't like accountability. I think immature humans don't. Mm-hmm. And I think we have a pattern of putting immature humans. I'm getting a conspiracy theory here, so I'll just talk about our people. I'll talk about Black people.
Yeah.
I have a strong disbelief that the idols we put in front of ourselves are the ones we choose. I do believe strongly that a machine pushes that to make us believe that that is the majority of us when it's not. The community in East Orange shows me that most Black people that I'm around are not doing half the things that Remy Ma and Papoose are doing. So most of them are just normal civilians working at the school, working as crossing guards, working as the bodega owner, working as a daycare owner, or doing childcare services, or doing Uber. You know what I mean? So no, I think that a machine pushes that. And then another thing would be that to the point of everyone grabbing the popcorn and watching it, I actually also have a hope that most people do not watch this. I feel like only the fact that me and you watch it goes back to what this whole podcast is about, is that are people really digesting this and wanting to be this, or are they digesting it and saying, man, this is not what I want to be? Which there's one thing I completely advocate for, and there's one thing I don't. I completely advocate for people putting themselves on the net and people learning from them what not to do, because I am a product of Newark ghetto. I am product of being out of the hood and people thinking I was going to be a Newark statistic when Newark just taught me what not to be. So you can be successful learning what not to become, right? I think that is the case with Remy and Papoose. It's such a tragic story. I was actually a very big advocate of them. And I was even one of the believers that, if I ever was to do business with my partner, it'd be like them. And on top of that, I think love is a little deep. Now, mind you, I would hope that they loved each other if they were going to brand themselves being together. But I always just thought, wow, like if husband and wife did business like that, that's great. But it's the same reason why I keep Beyonce and Jay-Z in that lane too. There's nothing saying that they don't do business well together. But it's learning to compartmentalize what people do great versus everything else about them. We don't know Beyonce and Jay-Z's house. We're not invited there. So we don't know anything other than what they're portraying. Right. That's why I say, hey, listen, stay in your lane and be great at it, right? If you're an entertainer, stay great as an entertainer. If you're a musician, stay great as a musician. If you want to advocate for anything, advocate for the space that you're already popular in. Don't sit here and try to be a political figure. You're not a political figure, you're a musician. Remy and Papoose, you guys made it in music. You guys and I think Remy and Papoose are a product of us putting something on them because they never advocated for that. But they're also held responsible when Remy came out of prison to be like, oh, we can make money branding our relationship. But people often become the monsters that society makes them. Like what you were talking about, Cardi B and Offset, me and you talk about this often. Cardi B is just doing what she's always been doing. The people who have backed Cardi B for being this authentic, speak what she says without thinking it through is the same thing she's doing out loud right now. It's just she's doing it with her relationship. Oh, I'm not going to filter anything I'm saying. I'm going to say what it is. This N word, B word, da-da-da-da-da. She's doing the same thing that everyone loved her for a couple of years ago. Yep. But people don't, just like the people who make you, there is no forethought given to, wow, what can this person become if I make them unfiltered? What can this person become if I sit here and I egg her on and everything she's saying, I make sure to tell her that nothing she's saying is wrong. How will she then believe me if I tell her she's wrong when I never made her have a consequence of anything wrong coming out of her mouth? So now when people try to tell her, hey, listen, stop, take a break, get off social media, stop doing this. Yeah. She's going to say, who are you? Well, I'm the person who helped make you. Well, I'm already here. You're still here. So bump everything you're saying, and I'm going to keep saying what I have to say until what? Everyone here leaves. Everyone here is going to go. And then now comes what? The victimization, which me and you always talk about. I'm so sorry. I lost my way. I didn't know, which again, you can ask for forgiveness and that's fine. But we also know there's that pattern of, I'm sorry for everything I did. We start to put you back up again. And then you look back at us almost worse than what you were before. Oh, y'all don't mean nothing. Da-da-da-da. And it's just like, so that's the pattern, right? Cardi B has been in such a toxic pattern of toxicity. I think there's like maybe the sixth fight to where I looked at her fans being tired of all the stuff that her and Offset go through. Like, yo, get off of social media. This is the sixth time y'all broke up. This is the sixth time y'all threatened divorce. This is the eighth time that y'all bring the family in. This is the eighth time that's been messy. To where it's a pattern of stuff like that.
Ari's been way more than 6. Way more.
If it's way more than 6, one is too much. So that's 5 times more than too much. Or 8 times more, 10 times more. But the same thing with Remy and Papoose. They've been idolized. And I think people need to start putting that word on stuff a lot more, because once we acknowledge we idolize them, we can take back the power for unidolizing them. If that's not a word, I just made it up. We can take back the power for unidolizing them, putting the Most High first, and saying that all humans are just human. Remy and Papoose would not be as surprising if we just sat here and were just like, man, they just like every other couple I've ever known. Things got messy. Apparently Remy has receipts of him cheating on her while she was in prison. I'm just like, dang, girl, you went to jail for 6 years. You didn't expect this dude to get no buns? Like, it's just like, man, like the entitlement. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay. I mean, I don't. Is FaceTime always supposed to work? Like, I don't understand. I don't even know how FaceTime is in prison. But it's just like, I don't think he's gonna be satisfying himself like that for 6 years. You were supposed to make sure he had some type of money or something waiting for him while he was in jail, while he was in the stint. Yeah, baby, go ahead. You can have it. Okay. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. My computer was calling me. But comment on that point because I saw you laughing.
Nah, I'm with you. Yeah, man. I think. Listen. So here's the thing. And that's an interesting subject that Ari just touched upon. When you decide to become married now, of course, I'm speaking as somebody who is coming from a Christian belief, right? Yeah. So marriage is definitely a very sacred thing, right? It's a beautiful thing. It's all the things that marriage is supposed to be based from a biblical perspective. That's the foundation of it. With me saying that, though, Remy and Papoose found themselves in a very unique situation where somebody is spending a significant time away from you physically, right? 60 years is a long time to be away from the person that you love, the person that you share everything with, including intimacy, right? So it's one of those things that where two people decide we're going to have an honest conversation about this, and it's laid out. It's like, it's one of those things where you have to have a very grown, mature conversation. It's like, listen, I love you. You love me. You're the person I want to be with. It's mutual. But I'm going to be physically away from you for 6 years.
Expecting maturity out of an immature person. She shot the woman that I think insulted her. That is the level of maturity.
I get you. That's what I'm saying.
I'm echoing your point where it's just like, that's how impossible that conversation was between them.
Right. It's, again, you got to be at a certain level in your life, mature-wise, to have certain honest conversations, whereas people lay it on the line and say the things that are uncomfortable. Like, hey, babe, I love you. Of course I want to be with you. Of course I'm not trying to like end our relationship because you're going to be in here for a while. Of course I want us to continue where we left off before you got in here. But as far as my physical needs are concerned,
but you did shoot somebody and end up in this rep, and you didn't think about me once. So now what you say?
Right. And mind you, yes, you have to bring that up. But let's just say you're the type of person that's like, listen, I don't want to beat a dead horse. We know why you in here. We know why you here, right? And the thing is, that's the type of, that card you just mentioned is a card I don't pull out right away. That card comes out from me saying, hey, babe, I want to be with you, but I have needs physically that's going to be hard to maintain, and I don't want to cheat on you. And then it's like she says, but I don't want you to do that. But then you say, but you're the one who shot somebody or shot at you. You see how the conversation goes? It's like, yo, you can expect blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? And again, it takes two people who are cognizant and forward thinking in having those type of conversations. Like, so here's something I want to bring up before I let Ari take it away again. So I was watching on Netflix, Nick Lachey and Vanessa Lachey have made a mint out of like relationship bonding or trauma bonding, depending on how you look at it, right? So you got Love is Blind, you got Perfect Match, and there's another show called The Ultimatum, right? Quick backstory, Ultimatum is when two couples come on the show. One wants to get married, the other person's not sure. and it's a bunch of couples, and they swap partners, trial marriages. They go through these provisions, and then at the end of it, they decide if they want to go together. They want to either stay together, go to the person that they trial married for a while, or if they end up single, right? So I watched the last season. I watched the reunion. I watched the whole season, right? Came out last night. And the thing I took away from that, especially in the reunion, because the reunion are revelatory things. I find that couples who presumably love each other don't know how to either communicate their needs or help their partners get to their needs. And what happens is that the relationships dissolve after time because eventually one partner is tired, or both couples or both partners get tired. It's like, I need you to do this and you're not doing it, or no one's willing to like be like, you know what? I'm going to adhere to your needs. Or actually, let me expand it a little more. It's like the relationship suffers because one person is depending on another person to make them happy in a specific way that either they're not comfortable doing, they want to do, but they're not capable of doing. And it goes on for a long period of time till both parties are completely exhausted and are inches away from hating each other. Right? And you wonder why one person or both parties are not laying their swords down and saying, you know what, can we start over reestablishing what we want from each other, and then going forward deciding in a very clear-minded way, hey, I want what I want from you. Do you want to do that sincerely with me? I see what you want. Can I do that with you? And can we make an impassioned plea or decision to do that? Yes or no. And then half the time, most couples can't do that. But what they end up doing is making the relationship last longer than it needs to. You know you're not marrying that girl. You know you're not marrying that dude, but you still want to keep them for whatever reason. You know that person desires a better sex life with you. You know it, but you had no intention of changing that, but you're holding on to that person because it's convenient to you. That is unfair. You know this person wants you to change. You know what I'm saying? And it's like no one's communicating those things properly or at all. So I feel with two people who are immature, like the Papoose and Remy Ma, it is very much that, where it's like that relationship was probably over way before it hit the net, but no one was willing to communicate their honest and true feelings because of maybe what was invested, because of how it might make the other person look, or maybe it would have made them confront who they really are. Like, hey, I'm really a narcissist. Hey, I'm really selfish. Hey, I'm really self-centered. No one wants to confront that and own that, but they rather play the game. And I'll close with this part. Another thing that was disturbing to me was the dialogue between Clarice Shields, and Papoose, where Miss Shields was literally asking Papoose, yo, could you bring me flowers? Could you do this for me? And it was almost like, I don't want to say that she was doing this, but almost like, yo, I'm begging you. Yo, I'm begging you to treat me a certain way. And after a while, man, you got to think, well, this person either doesn't have the tools to do this, or they just don't want to. You know? Like, you got to know, like, listen, man, anybody who deals with me knows I'm a romantic off the bat. You're going to know that. Like, the things that are me, you're going to know off the bat. You're going to know what I'm good at and not good at, and what I'm willing to change and work on off the bat. you know, unless you put me in a position where it's like now I'm kind of like, I don't know, angry about something and I'm showing not the best character of myself. And at that point, I got to make a decision to either change that or have a hard conversation. A lot of people don't want to have hard conversations about who they are and their relationship dynamics. So when I saw Miss Shields, a world championship boxer, asking for somebody's love in a certain way, and that person is not only married still, but, you know, probably has a girlfriend and probably is not built like the type of love that you want from someone, that's a problem. I think in closing, what I find is that the danger comes when you're in a relationship with someone and you're trying to make them into something that you're not to fit the archetype of the relationship that you want for yourself. And they're clearly not that person. And not only are they not that person, they clearly don't want to be that person. And I think that just makes for strange bedfellows. And yeah.
I completely understand that perspective. I think that's a lot of different subjects to touch on. But in terms of Clarissa, Papoose, and Remy, all I'll say is that keep your relationship stuff offline. I don't care if you brand it or not. I think people learn from Jada and Will. You should have did that a long time ago, because before Remy Ma and Papoose, it was Jada and Will. It was Denzel Washington and his wife, which I don't understand why people don't take more of their example, even if their internals are not so savory. Take it from the people who, again, there's just a mature way to handle it. There's a mature way of letting go of someone. There's a mature way of breaking up with someone. There's a mature way of addressing the abuse that might have happened in a relationship. There's a mature way of addressing the unfairness that two people might feel in a relationship. There's an immature way of doing it, and we just happen to see a lot of that on social media. So immature way to address. I've seen it handled tastefully though, like when who separated the other day. There was another celebrity couple that I think separated the other day. I can't think of them right now. But they'll say, hey, listen, we just want our privacy in this. You know, we don't hate each other. We love each other. We love our kids. I think it was Chris Pratt and what's her name? Christy, I can't think of her name right now, but she played in all the scary movies. And she's like, hey, listen, go ahead.
No, I was saying, you know who's a good example of that? In addition to who you just named, I think Devon Franklin and Megan Good, when they separated, I think they did it really flawlessly.
Yeah, I actually didn't even follow their divorce, but it would be one of those things to where it's just like, hey, listen, like we both love each other still. This is not, any type of animosity towards each other. We're just trying to go through the procedure, because they address that people do see them as like relationship goals or idolize them in that facet. Yeah. So they're basically maturely handling those people, and they're saying, we still love each other. We just can't be together. Right. But we again love you guys for loving us, right? And we love you guys for loving what we were at the time. Right. And we just ask for privacy while we deal with this. That's a very mature way to handle it. And I think that's the only right way to handle it when you're going into the social media space, because it tackles everything that you're trying to say. Once you talk about arguments and he said, she said, and pulling receipts and all this other type of stuff, it's just like, this is the courtroom, right? Like, you're going to be doing the same thing in court, basically. When you guys are splitting assets, when they say, okay, well, what's the fall divorce? Who did what to who? Who's going to pay out assets out to who? Who's going to pay alimony out to who? It gets so ugly, and I don't feel like social media has to be a part of that.
Even as a public figure, because again, like I started the conversation, I think a lot of these artists are under the weight and the slavery of public perception, but that public perception is part of your own doing. If you're trying to portray yourself a certain way, and now you have to not only explain it away in a certain way, but actually defame the person that you're with to keep this perception, that's your doing. Because again, as a public figure, you don't have to carry on the way that you're doing. You can literally keep it nice and clean. Like, imagine if Remy and Papoose made a joint statement and said, listen, you know what? I know you guys are fans of both of us. We believe in Black love still. It's just unfortunately it didn't work for us the way that we hoped. You know what I'm saying? There could have been a way you could have done this that was clean. It would have been sad, but it would have been mature. It would have been respectful. It would have been sad, bittersweet, but it didn't have to be this.
Yeah.
No matter if you're a public figure or not, you know, it didn't have to turn into the chaos that it became.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, before we wrap this up, because there was a lot of like subjects there, I think it's way deeper than just to pin something you said. I think it's way deeper than trying to change people into who they are. You know that the only thing I feel like people really fall victim to is deceptions and manipulation. Yeah. There are people who go in honest and someone's intention is to be very dishonest. You cannot protect yourself against someone who's trying to be dishonest to you. The only thing you can hope to do is find out the lie and then move on what happens when you find out the truth. So there's a lot of nuances in there. For example, if you catch someone up in a lie and they say, well, I lied because I was scared, or I lied because I was afraid of losing you, or I lied because I was this, that, and the third, you have a choice then to stay with that person, but you are no longer a victim of choice. Victims don't have choices, right? It's the whole fact that you didn't have a choice that made you a victim. Like if I get lied to, I didn't choose to get lied to. That's why I'm a victim of a lie. But you had malintent. You had an intent as being the person who brings the lie to deceive me. For whatever reason you say now, if I come out into a lie and I unveil the truth, whether you bring it to me or whether I figure it out some type of way, I can now assess your reasoning and see if that's enough for me to stay or to go. I can assess that because I'm not, and there's some relationships that still are like this. Is why I feel like we're still blessed to be in America. But there's some relationships where women don't even get that choice to stay, even if they know their husband is cheating, right? Exactly. Like it's just like you don't got a choice, or go back to your village, right? So to me, it's, we're blessed to be here, but that's where all of our ancestry's fights and everything that we've been advocating for really came to a head. Where it's like we are no longer. It's harder to play the victim card. And when Remy sits here and she makes it seem like she's a victim because Papoose supposedly cheated on her in prison, I'm just like, well, you kind of made your whole relationship a victim when you shot the girl without thinking about the consequences. You made a victim of the girl you shot. That's number one. You made a victim of the girl you shot. And then the second thing would be that you put up your relationship to basically be slaughtered. You didn't have enough care about your relationship even for it to stop you from pulling the trigger. Papoose was not even a thought in your head. When you were just like, man, before I pull this trigger, I can go to jail for life. Bump 6 years. I can go to jail for life. What if I aim for her foot, I hit her main artery on her thigh, and I cause her to bleed to death? That's life. That's at least 25 years. Was Papoose even a thought? No, because you're too selfish. Selfish people.
Her own self wasn't even a thought. Remember, this is a person who was on the cusp of her career. She wasn't just some person that was out there, you know, Joe Schmo or whatever. No diss to any Joe Schmo. That's where, you know, I'm just saying that how this person had hit records on the radio about to blow up and be bigger than like in her own world. And she threw that away, you know, like because she got mad, she got angry. And granted, we understand that happens. Sometimes something happens and it takes your own mental fortitude to decide if this is going to be a definitive factor in your life or you're just going to let the anger take over.
And I would argue it could be both because selfishness to me is she shot the woman out of ego. Anyone who gets to shoot somebody because they're angry enough because of something. What did we laugh at when the guy said, "And I'd be damned if you let everything I crumble for be just because you don't like the way another end talks," right? It's just like someone talking about you caused you to shoot them. That is very egotistical. To take a life because you don't like how someone else is talking about you is the reason why gangs are predatory, and not because we don't let our kids aspire to be gang members. They're predatory, and they prey on that. It's the ego of the gang, right? The ego of being able to say, "Oh, if someone disrespects you with their mouth, you can go and shoot them." Okay, cool. But now you have to deal with the consequences of it. The thing to me is that Remy wants all of the accolades or all. She wants to be able to do whatever she wants without any consequence. Yeah. And that to me is one of those things to where even when it comes to Papoose kind of echoes that. Because even when I saw the text messages with Clarissa, my heart broke for her because it's not much. And Clarissa, if you tune in, hi. But it's not much for you to ask your partner for flowers. It's not much to ask for you to have private time with them. That should be bare. That's what we call bare minimum. Bare minimum is flowers. Bare minimum is him setting aside time to come and see you. Bare minimum is day, and I'll say he or she, right? Her coming over and be like, "Why are you sick? Here's some soup. Hey, you're not feeling well. Let me talk to your mom." Like, that's bare minimum requirements, and that's in dating. So if you're asking for that and he's making you feel that type of way, that's also a very egocentrical thing that he's doing, which makes sense why him and Remy matched.
But here's the thing too,
because of that.
To that point, it's not only just egotistical, it's also irresponsible in this sense. It's like, and again, some would call Clarissa, I don't know why I've been messing up her name, so thank you for saying it out loud, Clarissa. In Clarissa's case, it's like, you would be best not to enter into something that already has a toxicity to it. Now, I understand that life happens, and then you know, they say sometimes you can't help who you fall in love with. I don't know how true that really is, but let's just say for the sake of argument that is, right? It's just like, man, it's hard for someone to really be treated and cared for the way that they deserve to be treated if they're still tied in something else, if they're still involved in something else. It's like, yo, I really want to treat you a certain way. I really want to move a certain way, and I want to have as much time. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's more like nuanced than that, because we don't know if Papoose lied or not. There's a lot of people I know who are in married situations who will sit here and say, "Hey, listen, I'm married, yes, but I'm separated 6-7 years, and she doesn't want to get the divorce."
Right.
And that's what Papoose said on his Twitter or whatever he posted. He said, once he said, "Hey, listen, I tried to divorce her. Right. She doesn't want to get the divorce. She keeps delaying the divorce." Right. And I think what ends up happening in that is that,
you know what it is, Ari? Can I keep it real? I think, and this is the thing I have to be careful of. I think that sometimes I think about to myself, like, what would Jason do? How would Jason handle this situation? And not everybody is going to be handling the situation like Jason handled the situation. Like, if I'm Papoose, I'm not seeing no one until I get this whole thing squared away. But that's how Jason would move, because I know what it's going to take for this to happen in the right way. But Papoose isn't Jason. Papoose, and I don't know, and in the same token, to your word nuance, I don't know what Papoose life is. I don't know what he's dealing with. Maybe he's trying to move like Jason. Maybe he can't. You know what I'm saying? And it's just so complicated. It's one of those things, you know?
Complicated to a way, but this is why I think you can take the facts of the situation and build the case off of that. So the facts of the situation is that Papoose and Remy Ma are still married.
Right.
They move like they're separated.
Right.
If Papoose word is to be true, or to be the truth, is that he asked for divorce and didn't get it.
Right.
And he's been fighting it ever since. He still lives in her house, which is his accountability, because no matter if you're separated or not, you could have definitely moved. And that feeds into what Remy Ma said, saying that, oh, he still lives off of me. So he can say all he wants, but he still lives off my check, which is why he did not move yet, as much as he tries to move and act like he's on his own. Then you have Clarissa, who, again, is not a victim unless she got lied to. That, oh, I don't have any feelings for my ex-wife. I don't have any feelings for any of this type of stuff. I'm actually in legal battles right now trying to divorce her. If Clarissa knew all that and believed it to be true, and Papoose is telling the truth, then they're just two people who decided to try to make it work, despite all the messiness that would be in a divorce. But if Papoose lied to her, and this is where Remy Ma got off on her, and said, oh, you look like a fool chasing him when he was with his other girlfriend, when he wasn't answering you, that is Papoose's karma. Because now he's making the mess in something that he didn't have to make. Because we all know Remy Ma is controlling. In a way that Papoose came off with Clarissa, it seems like he's a little bit controlling, because he can come off as manipulative. If a woman that you're dating can sit here and make it seem like asking for flowers is such a big task, then you're not treating her well. It's the same way that I would talk to a brother if he was like, hey, listen, I just asked her for some soup when I was sick. And she didn't come by and think that she's not treating you well either, because a friend could do that for you. A stranger who found you fainted would do that for you and nourish you in some type of capacity. So in the messiness that is that, I think the nuance is who's really the victim. And I think that we don't know who the victims are until we know what the truth is. And all we really know is that you're dealing with a married couple who decided to out all their stuff on social media, which is why you can't judge it. This is supposed to stuff that's supposed to be in divorce court. Yeah. These are people who are licensed. These are judges who have been certified. They can sit here and go through all the receipts. They could have all their interns go through all the receipts, which will probably take a couple months to be like, okay, well, who's in right to divorce who? Who's getting paid for this afterward? Oh, you don't want to get paid after this? Okay, fine. That makes our job easier. Like, there's people who are designated to that. Social media is not the space nor the avenue to have social court. Like, there is no social court. People do not like Remy Ma. People think Remy Ma is narcissistic. Then you look at Papoose receipts with Clarissa, and the only person who really comes off like a victim is Clarissa. And not because she chose to be with a married man. Like I said, there's so much nuance there to where we know married people who are going through divorce who decide to date. Right. And then when they divorce, they get into relationships so fast that some people think they was cheating the whole time. It's like, no, I was in separation for a long time. Right. But I wasn't legally divorced until 2 years later. So yes, I was dating while I was separated. I was dating while I was trying to get the divorce to happen. And as soon as the divorce happened, I already had another person I was trying to marry. That's nuance we don't know. Yeah. But we do know that Clarissa is just asking for bare minimum stuff, and Papoose is giving her the runaround. So that to me is one of those things to where, like, hey, listen, even if you are separated, you're still not out here treating your sisters fairly, and you're still not treating them with respect or any type of dignity. So just don't date, or don't date the people that you know are going to be asking for that, because she clearly is honest with you, and she's clearly saying the things that she wants from you. You can easily say, hey, listen, I'm not the one to do that for you. So I suggest you go and find someone else to do that for you. But like you said, if you want your cake and you want to eat it too, then he's not going to do that. No, he's going to say, hey, listen, you're asking too much, or whatever the freaking text message was saying. And it takes people like us to say, no, you're not asking for much at all. Yeah. But toxicity breeds other toxicity. Papoose is also his own little level of toxicity. Oh, he decides to stay lived up with his ex-wife who is sleeping with another man. Like, that is its own level of toxicity. Like, we're just like, do you not remove yourself from that situation? That's kind of strange, right? I think a lot of things come down to insecurities. A lot of things come down to knowing yourself versus what you believe in yourself or believe about yourself. Yeah. I think people need to be okay with being the bad guy sometimes and knowing that they were the bad guy in the situation, right? Because that's a level of accountability. I don't know if I trust them to know that about themselves. But again, expecting something like them from that just goes to show how much disillusion we put ourselves under. Because why would we expect anything from them when that's how they showed how they were? Remy Ma was been a red flag. Cardi B was a red flag. How are we surprised that they're in their later, in their 40s, I guess, or somewhere in their 30s going into 40s, and they're acting like children? How are we surprised? Like they came into the limelight children.
And you know what, to add to that, the thing about being a superstar or a celebrity is that as a celebrity, people are at your beck and call, and you can literally get away with anything you want. Like, as a celebrity, no one holds you accountable because you're a celebrity. You can talk to people crazy. You can act a certain way because you're such and such, and I get in this space free. I eat at Mr. Chow's. I do this. Yeah. You can't tell me nothing. So somebody who's built that way, they're the last person that's going to say, you know what, I was wrong. Because they're never told that they're wrong ever. And if you tell me you're wrong, I'm going to fire you. And I think that's why a lot of people are enablers, because they don't want to be fired because they have a salary and a mortgage to pay due to the people that they hate. Yeah. And that's just a sad reality of our world. Yeah. And you
cannot believe, you cannot trust a narcissist to be selfless. That's a very contradictory statement. A narcissist is so selfish that I think now that people are starting to really understand the term, it's such a made product of a person, where to dissect them and to even to get them out of that narcissism is a task that only licensed professionals should really do. because it takes so much of time and energy that even when you were talking about the whole love thing and stuff like that, you're not a victim. And you know me, you touch and agree on this a lot or disagree on this a lot, but I don't believe you fall in love. That's another thing about me where it's like I don't think that victim mentality thing. I think you choose who you love, and I think you know yourself more when you figure out the reasons why you love the person you love. So I tend to love people who I feel need love, right? And I used to be that way until I wanted love for myself, because it's not my job to give you the love that you need. That's your parents' job. That's not my job. The love that you want, I can be there. I can be there for that. But the love that you need, no. Now, mind you, do some people could disagree or agree with that all you want, but I don't believe in the victimhood of falling in love with someone, because then it makes it seem like you're a prisoner to that person. And anyone I've seen someone who say, hey, listen, I fell in love with that person, they end up in very abusive relationships because they feel like they're stuck there because of a matter of their heart that they can't control. No, please understand you chose that person. You need to figure out why you're choosing this person. You have to do a deep dive into yourself, because if you believe you fell in love with that person, you don't know yourself enough. There's a very specific reason why you chose this person out of everyone else, especially here in America, especially when it's a choice to pick who you love, to where we can love dogs. And what me and you were talking about, the girl married the bridge, the Golden State Bridge. Like, you could choose things to love now, like not even people. You could choose things to love. We don't fall. I don't believe in falling in love. I don't believe in that. I believe that once you know yourself, you know exactly why you love the people at the certain times you love them. And the same way that you love them is the same way you can say, hey, listen, I'm taking back my love in this capacity. I love you as a human being, but I won't love you as a friend. I love you as a friend, but I don't love you as a business partner. I love you as a business partner, but I don't love you as a lover. And I love you as a lover, but I don't love you as a wife or husband. You can choose these things in life. So the falling in love thing, like I said, I don't think Papoose fell in love. Papoose, I don't feel like is a victim to love. I feel like him and Remy feed off each other's what would that be? Egocentricism or egocentric nature. I feel like they feed off that because he shows that same ego with Clarissa. He shows the same thing. And then once you
or here's a flip side. You know, I watched a couple of interviews that they had once this whole news thing broke. And it makes me even want to course correct something I said earlier. The person who showed up on Love and Hip Hop, the person who got interviewed at Hot 97 and various other places like that when she was fresh out, as they say, and they were talking, doesn't strike me as the person that wouldn't do the things that Clarissa's asking for. Papoose don't strike me as somebody who wouldn't know how to get flowers or to treat their person. I feel like, in his own way, Papoose might be a bit of a romantic. I think what happened, this is his theory, this ain't the gospel, but I wouldn't be surprised if this situation with Remy burnt that out of him. It's something that you and I talk about all the time. It's like being with someone so long or too long to the point that you start to change the person you are and you become a hateful person or you become less of a person because you're so burnt. Therefore, not only do you despise the person that you want to be with or you used to be with, you start low-key being
basically replicating the hurt that you have. But this is where me and you also talk about, because what do we always say at the end of that? And what do I always tell you? You lost. If you can get that far, you lost. Papoose shouldn't be dating anyone if what you're saying is true. If he was the romantic and Remy Ma burnt that out of him, he will even date himself. So why are you out here? Right? So again, egocentric. Oh, he burnt it out of me and I don't think I can love anyone else again, but let me go and take someone else's time who's looking for that in a person. You might as well just be on an island by yourself until you get it together and be like, that's the game of love. You have to be vulnerable to get vulnerability, and there's a chance you might or might not get it. But that's the risk. It's high risk, high reward. That's how it's always been, especially in love. It is high risk, high reward. If I give my heart to you, it's a chance, just a chance, but I'm willing to take that chance with you. And if you take my heart and you do this, 3, then guess what? Then I have to sit here with the choice, like, damn, let me go get my heart out the garbage because they just crumpled it up and threw it in like a paper basket. Like, let me go and get it because I know I can love me. Again, the difference between needing your love and just wanting it. If you just want love from someone, you are not a victim to them. You can walk away at any time that you want. That's why I don't believe in falling in love. When you fall in love, you're basically saying, yo, that's a lot of power. Like, people talk about falling in love with another human being. Are you in love with God? Like, like, will you let God run you through the ringer the way that you let this person run you through the ringer for real? Because that's a lot. I'm pretty sure if God didn't give you that promotion yesterday, you would have been sitting here cursing with him. But this girl is cheating on you live and going to Christmases and missing Christmases with your family, the daughter you had. And again, even if you're tolerating that, the victim doesn't come out and say yo, I'm good. Bye, I'm done. And Papoose only flaw in that is that he made it seem like that's how he was moving, but you're not divorced and you know who you married. You know you married this toxic female who will sit here and get up in your business, insult the women that you're with, and then when she comes out, when the woman you're dating comes out, you're not treating her well either. So it's almost like both y'all need to go to therapy. You need to go to post-divorce therapy. That's what you need to get before you even come back out into the game and do anything at all. And Henry, thank you for saying great live. We are enjoying this conversation. It really is going all over, but I like that it's centering back into just the things that we idolize, whether it be the celebrity couples or people in the spaces that were moguls or whatever our high figure status people are. But yeah, you can't be a victim to it. I think the minute that you know yourself, you realize that you're not a victim of anything. You just have to realize the things that you chose and why you chose it, and that gives you more power. Like I said, when I found out that I was loving people who needed love, I also found out how draining it was. Because I often loved men who didn't have good relationships with their fathers or their mothers. So I'm sitting here going like, man, the love you're taking from me is almost like the love that a child would want from a parent. That's a lot. That's a lot to ask for, like, of a person. And then you're reciprocating it, right? Because now you're treating me like the child. You're treating me like you have to teach me stuff or make me grow up or whatever the case may be, when I didn't even come out. I didn't even come in like that. I didn't come in trying to teach you like a child. I came in trying to love you as an equal. And you're sitting here trying to father me. Why? Because you're looking to me as that mother. You're looking to me as that motherly figure and that motherly love. So guess what? I'm cooking for you. I'm cleaning for you. I'm cleaning your drawers. I'm making sure you're okay. I'm chasing after you if you're safe or if you're not safe. A lot of men, I can at least say on the woman's side, a lot of men look for their parental love in their partners. But I've also seen it in women. When women don't get fatherly love, they look for their men to be their fathers, when that is not what we're supposed to marry for. We're not marrying our parents. We're not marrying the love that we get from our parents. We're supposed to be marrying the love we get from our equals. And the only time I've ever seen equal love in a relationship is when people just want it. Hey, listen, I'm good. I can support my family. I can protect my family. I produce for my family. I'm a stewardess or steward of the community. I give back. I do my own thing. I got my own business, my own hustle, my own job, my own career, my own morals, my own religious practices. I'm good. But yeah, building a life with you would be great, baby. But building a life with you would be great. Like, it's just like, and it's the fun of that. It's the fun of, yeah, like, what would me and your future look like together? What would us just lovey-dovey on each other? What does I love child look like? Like, that's the freedom that people was going to those relationships with. And you can see it in Remy. Remy and Papoose was definitely a relationship of what you said. Remy thinking, oh wow, this person loves me so much that I'm gonna use them. I'm gonna use them to hold me down while I'm in prison, right? And then when come out, be completely, then use the relationship. And both of them agreed to that, because I'm not going to say Papoose did not benefit from being branded that way. He also went in and branded the whole relationship and the black love thing with her. But then the only thing I give Papoose again is that when it went south, he wasn't public with it. He didn't let anything be known to the social media world. He didn't tweet about anything or whatever. It took Remy coming out and talking about some person that he dated when she'd been dating other people. The narcissism of it is like, you've been doing this to this man. But Papoose, you should have went to therapy and should have made sure that you was divorced first. So
I'm just laughing because I just saw a narcissistic move just now.
What narcissistic move?
I'll tell you later. Anyway, I will say this very quickly to a point that you made as far as like, why would someone why would someone who is hurting that way, let's say Papoose started off like soft and just kind of like trying to bring the softness out of Remy Ma, just being a romantic and doing it. Because I saw that. I definitely saw that. I'm glad I remember that. I recall that in my mind. Why would that turn and not be a great effect for Clarissa now that they're dating? And why would he even entertain it? It's hard for men and women sometimes to be alone. It's like, you don't want to, you know that you have no business being in a new relationship right at this particular moment, but you don't want to be alone. You don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
You don't want to be alone. A soft body next to me at night. Don't want to go to the party yourself. Don't want to be alone, but you're in no position to do what you're doing right now because you're hurt. And
you know what I hear a lot in that and what you're saying? Selfishness.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
Hey. So I hear a lot of selfishness in that. I hear a lot of. You want to go podcast? I hear a lot of selfishness in when. Oh well, I don't want to be alone, but I know that I'm not ready to be with anyone else because if it goes to serve anything, and you know how I am immersed in different religions and stuff like that. The power of being by yourself is the ultimate power. The power of knowing yourself before you know anything else is the ultimate superpower. So we're gonna wrap up now, baby. Okay. Okay. That is the ultimate superpower. So when you're sitting here just saying, "Well, I don't want to be alone," you're really not thinking about the blessing that God might be putting you through to say, "Hey, listen, well, you have no other time to spend with no one else but yourself." What don't you know about yourself? What do you know about yourself? Challenge yourself, challenge your ideals, challenge your morals, challenge your principles, because that is what's going to give you the standard to navigate the whole world like that. So when people say, well, I don't want to be alone, but then also at the same time, they know they're not ready to not be alone. You're just picking and choosing. And the only thing that's different is that when you're alone, you can't hurt nobody else but you. But when you choose to take someone else on, you're basically saying like, hey, I have an availability to hurt the other person that I'm doing this with. And even that access is unfair. Because if you know your heart's not in it, and you know your mind's not in it, and you're so focused on you still healing yourself, trying to figure yourself out, then what are you giving the other person? All Papoose doing is really hurting. If he would sit himself down somewhere and stop being in poom poom so much, he would be healing. But he's letting the poom distract him, right? And then he got an image, so he can't sit out here, boodling it up in a closet. He gotta be Brooklyn finest. He have to be, I have New York City in the palm of my hand. I can make a tight fist and make it crumble ridiculous. Like he gotta be that guy. So it's just like his brand too could be something that's keeping him like, I can't be out here saying like I'm not dating nobody. My dudes might be feeling like I'm gay or something. It's just like it'd be too much. It'd be so much stuff where it's just like, dude, no matter what they saying to you, sit your butt down, divorce your wife, get out of that mess, and do better for you. Yeah. The minute you do better for you, you're going to do better for everyone around you, including the person that you're going to be in a relationship with. The only reason why Clarissa's in that funk is because Papoose did not hold himself accountable and make sure that he was out of that marriage before he dated anyone else. That's it. Because it starts with him. Because if it was two single people, we have a whole nother conversation. But it's not even that two single people. And I'm not saying that Clarissa is completely dismissed from it. Yeah. Right. But Papoose is the guilty party. Papoose know he married. Like he knows that. Like he at least know, he might not know anything else, but he know he married. And you dating a person who's unmarried. Make it make sense. Right. So yeah, man, it gets crazy. It gets crazy out here. But with the exposure comes, I think, what people on the outside can do who looks in. They can start to look at themselves. I don't think, I don't hate any of these people. I get disappointed sometimes with how humanity acts in this type of stuff, but I can also see the benefit of all the people who look in and be like, hey, listen, stop yourself from becoming this person. Because you could be the next famous Papoose and Remy. There's nothing saying you can't be. Yeah. You don't want to be that. So what they're basically putting their whole life on display when people say, well, why are they putting themselves out there? I was like, because it's God's design. And God, by God's design, they're out here to teach you how not to be. Like that's basically what God is making them expose themselves for.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can only hope we can learn from other people's examples. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much it. Listen, y'all, we're going to call this one a day. But it was a really great conversation, for sure. It usually is, but I don't. Something about this one felt really cool. Like, just went back to the roots of it and stuff like that. And I pray that you guys got a lot from it. That's the intention every time. You know, it's just like, hey, if we see the world burning in a handbasket, I know I just messed the term up, and that shows I'm tired. But no, if the world's going to hell in a handbasket, that's the term.
That's it. I knew you would get it because I was like,
we should definitely know how to make our ascension to heaven away from that. See what I'm saying? So these are all lessons that we're learning.
Love is a superpower. So don't ever forget that. Even if you're on the end to where you feel like you were shorted, you were taken advantage of, just think about it. You gave love to someone who clearly reciprocated to you. That's a superpower. Whenever you're on the receiving end of, wow, I gave this person a part of myself that they clearly reciprocate. That's how God said he felt when he made us. It was love unreciprocated, right? A stubborn heart, a stubborn people. I have to show signs all the time that I love you and I care for you, and you still won't believe me. Some of y'all don't even believe I exist. Some of y'all believe y'all got here on some evolutionary biology, a cell come to a monkey that they still can't prove, right? So love is a superpower. The world might not feel like it appreciates that, but just like Kendrick said, there's good people still left. There might not be many of us, but the power comes when we kind of find each other.
Right.
And that's all the world is doing. The world is just pushing all the people who love so much together. That's all the world ever does, is push the people who love in spades into a community. So I look forward to what that future looks like, for sure.
And we can only hope and pray that that's the case, for sure. Yeah, speaking of things that we're hopeful for, a lot of new episodes are coming on the way. We are going to be very busy this weekend. The year is wrapping up, and we're going to do a very special year-end episode. We're going to be wrapping up a lot of the things that we discussed this year, things that we probably didn't even cover because we weren't exactly a podcast yet, but I'm sure we discussed in our own private time. So we're going to bring that to the forefront. And we're going to talk about that. Currently, I'm working on, because it's just a thing that I love, and I know Ari does too. It's just that Ari's life has been so crazy. She hasn't been able to deep dive like I have. But we're going to be talking about the best music of the year because, of course, music dominated a lot of the things that we talked about this year. So I'm going to break that down, and that's going to be fun. But yeah, look out for some really cool things before the year is out as we get ready for 2025. Season 1 of Your Deprogrammed podcast is coming to a close. And it's really cool to even say that there was a season 1. Because this was just a thought in my mind and Ari's mind. Ari pushed for it. I pressed the red button, and now we're here. So, and we didn't start from the bottom. Sorry, from the bottom.
Listen, all praises to the Most High that we did, and we started off blessed. For real. Right. And it only gets better from here. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for watching. For all of us joining us in the post show, you're just as appreciated. So thank you so much. Join the conversation. Hit us up on YouTube. Hit us up on our Instagram DMs. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have more people come into the chat live.
Yeah.
And talk to us live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that you could be a part of the bigger conversation, because that's what it's about. So until then, I'm Ariana Aparicio, aka Ari.
Jason Andre Roberts, aka Conquest.
And you
this has been
tuning in to your regularly scheduled deprogramming.
Later, y'all.
Later, guys.
Peace.
Yeah, I don't think so.